Every single highlight.
Right, we can always catch people up.
Okay.
Good morning. Hi, I'm Ann.
Right.
I'm not gonna shake your hand for just on my nose, that's okay, fine. So, yeah, everybody can sign in. Melissa's here, Ryan's here, Sonia, I'm gonna leave this up front. She,
I
wasn't,
I,
oh, you're not staying?
really came just to.
Bye.
get this-
Okay, it was so nice to see you.
Thank you.
Okay, all right. Well, all right, so you said there's a lot of traffic, so maybe some other people will be coming, but to respect your time, we'll pretty much get started, right?
I love it.
Right? And I want to apologize. I don't know if you all were here last week when I was supposed to be here. I'm really sorry. I woke up with vertigo and that is not something to be powered through. So I'm glad you could come back. And for those of you who can't hear me, that I'm sorry you missed it. I'm always available. I put my name and contact information up here, and you know, really, text me, call me. I'm always happy to hear from people. If I can help, I will. If I can't, I will find out what direction to point you in. And I am really glad that you're here to talk about and learn about working with winning the seller and working with buyers and sellers. So a little bit about me, other than my name being Ann, don't worry about the last name. I grew up in Norfolk. My family had been for a long, long time. And I had a lot of real estate people in my family, my mom, my uncle, my cousins, and I thought I knew so much about real estate. And eventually, after spending 28 years in contracting with my husband, life changed. I said, okay, it's time to get my license. And I know all about that industry. I knew nothing.
Oh, man.
What the similarity was that going from contracting to real estate, I take a project mindset. Brian, what are your goals? We're going to figure out how to meet them. So the relationship part transfers pretty well, but the mechanics, it's a new industry, and we all have to be open-minded to learn, right? So in terms of working with sellers, working with buyers, it's all good. We need everybody, but I want you to just think about something. You have a weekend that you're trying to take off, or maybe a weekday that you're trying to take off. You planned it with your loved one, with some friends who are visiting, whatever it is. And you're working with buyers. And you've told the buyers, I'm not available, or you've said I have appointments, or they have said, I can't make it this weekend. Whatever it is, you're not expecting it. And right as you go out the door to meet people for brunch, the phone starts to blow up. And you're like, babe, I'll meet you at the restaurant. I really need to do this. This is an $800,000 sale, and I've got to be there. And think about mentally, emotionally, physically, what you start doing, how it affects your family, how it affects your day. And does it happen once, or does it happen then again and again and become a pattern? You like it. So now think about and that could happen if you're working with one buyer, you're working with 10. 10 is hard to work with. Think about that you have 4, 5, 6 listings, and you have those same plans. And you put in the agent instructions, offers will be reviewed Monday. Or you put in the agent instructions, you added something and said, text me, I'll be able to return calls Sunday after 4. And I think here you have sentry locks. You don't even need to talk to people. That's not true in the Northern Neck where I am. We talk to each other, we text each other, we phone each other. But at any rate, you have some instructions there. And even if you get that phone call or text, you can go, yeah, LB 1, 2, 3, 4. And the person goes in. And you're at lunch and you're enjoying your time and you've got more listings being shown. So in terms of how you use your time, how you use your energy, Hey,
Good morning.
good morning. How you plan things? There is a difference, and we're gonna talk about working with buyers and sellers. But we're gonna start with winning the seller, and I think there's great advantage in terms of our life. If there are people who you say, I just absolutely love working with buyers, that's great, go for it. But know that there is a time trade-off in terms of how you do things. And we'll get into that a little bit more as well. So I think one of the objectives should be ready to list. Don't have to start with, I sort of train the buyer field. You're gonna have that, it's gonna come, but be ready to list when the opportunity is there. And because the benefits are time to maximize your profits, and I promise you, you will have a lot less stress. Okay, how are you? Good, we've got our sign-up sheet here.
Thank you, ma'am.
And I'll explain to you about the little luggage packages in a little bit. So we're going to talk about win with the seller. But first, does anybody want to talk about progress you've had in the last couple of days or even weeks? Progress and challenges, either one.
I will.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I am in the middle of a deal
Yes.
and, we've had a couple of issues with with a lender. And I'm kind of glad that I handled it the way that I did.
Yeah.
So my client, when I connected them to the lender, everything went perfectly fine.
Yep.
And then I feel like he kind of ghosted us.
The lender.
Yeah, and I'm just like, hey, what's going on? So she's calling me, she was like, hey, something wrong? I'm like, no, maybe we'll hear from you on Monday. So Monday, text them, hey, checking in. He was like, I just got back in town, my daughter this, my daughter that. Still really nothing, kind of shaky. So I connected with another lender. And now I kind of fired him on the low, but it was done so professional. I'm so proud of myself for that. He jumped in gear like 5 minutes later, started sending all this stuff, and we're gonna redo this, and she's fine, and this, that, and the third. And then my other lender is like, well, I'm gonna get you straight in the morning. So now she has these two options.
Good.
And I just told her, I can't tell you what to do, but just listen to one and the other, and you decide which way that you want to go.
Did the first lender tell you he was going to be out of town, unavailable for a while?
No.
Okay.
No, and he actually let her know that he was going to call her that evening. And we didn't hear anything. I'm just like, okay. So ultimately, his daughter got in a crash in Atlanta, this, that, and the third. But for me, it's just all about communication, because I texted him, I didn't hear anything. I called the next day, I didn't hear anything. So I'm just like, look, we gotta move forward.
Right.
And we did that. And now it's just like, now we got.
Yeah, so it sounds like you handled it great. So, Melissa Aflin was talking yesterday at Coffee with Peppers about, she was talking about agents, but give the other person grace, because we're gonna make mistakes.
Right.
And give the other person some grace, but hey, welcome. But you also need to know that there should be some communication and people should have backup. And, if you get a text that says family emergency, so sorry, you would understand, or you would say, I understand, in this case, I have to move on. I look forward to working with you another time. But the point is, and Patrice always says this too, you're the voice of calm. You either get the information or you deliver the information, whichever it is, depending on the situation, and then you let your clients make the decision.
And
So I think
he
you're absolutely right.
verbally, was like,
Yeah.
He told me, 100% financing, I'm gonna send a letter, she's pretty much for approval, I just need to make sure that her income matches up what she's telling me. So I'm like, okay, great, I get to move forward with my whole thing. And
So you had kind of a challenge and a win all in one,
yeah,
but you handled it.
I handled it, because I wanted to like, don't do me like this right now, please don't do this to me. And I pretty much said what you said, and I'm glad I didn't handle it, because he really did have an emergency.
Yeah.
But men don't communicate well. So,
Hey.
sorry,
Not all.
not all, but yeah.
All right, so we have Mel and Stephanie and Brian and
Arnita.
Arnita. Nice to meet you. I'm Ann.
Nice to meet you, Anne.
There's a sign-up sheet, sign-in sheet somewhere. Okay. So that was a win and a challenge. Any others we want to talk about? Glad to hear. No? Okay. Before we go any further, telemarketing and TCPA. Mal sends out a list every month with phone numbers. I have been using it. She started sending it to me, I think, because I had one time when I called somebody, hey, my client asked me to call you about this address. They are true. And the woman on the other end of the phone blasted me. And I didn't even realize I'd done something wrong. So every time I pick up the phone, I look at Mal's list. Hey, good to see you. I'm Ann, and remind me you are James. James, that's what I thought. So make sure you are following TCPA, please. And if you're not sure, then get a copy. Trying to go forward to where we are. Okay. So it's really good to start with a quote, get our mindset right. And I love some of the Gary Keller quotes. And can I get a volunteer to read this one?
While leads are vital to your sales business, seller listings are critical to your ability to build it to its highest level with the lowest cost and highest net. Gary Keller, MREA.
Right. So as I mentioned earlier, my mom was a real estate agent. And she said she died a couple years ago, but she said to me about 3 years ago, she goes, Ann dear, she said, my broker always told me to have 12 to 15 listings. And if I had that, everything else was manageable and I would be fine. And I mentioned that to somebody recently, because, mom just told me 12 to 15 listings. And they went, yeah, over the year. I said, no, a month.
Yeah.
And they thought that was not possible. However, it was not someone in the circle. However, when we read through this, when you read through MREA, that's exactly what it is. And mother was before MREA. That we can handle 6 to 8 buyers at a time. And remember, you're going to every showing, right? You're going to multiple showings with that. With listings, we're meeting with them, which we'll talk about today, to win them as a seller listing. We are doing the listing presentation, getting their signature. We are probably staging, photography, so there's work up front. And you may be at some of the showings, but once that is set, you can have 10 people showing it and you can be out with one other person, right? So it's huge, huge leverage. And if you have 6 or 8 or 10 or 12 or however many you can have of those, up to 12 to 15, you can manage if you're not doing the other side, right? So that's really good. So today with Win the Seller, we are going to be able to identify an A seller being ready, willing, and able, just like on the buyer side. Excuse me, to apply approaches to request an appointment from an A seller, to apply the pre-listing criteria and build the seller's confidence, and to demonstrate your experience in handling buyers' objectives. So, the piece with the seller's confidence, how much of everything we do you think is mindset? All of it. Exactly. My daughter the other day, she's taking an online course that is very challenging for her, and she was rather down. We had a talk, didn't seem to help. And that night at dinner, she was beaming. And I said, okay, what changed? And she goes, I changed my mindset. Doesn't make her course easier, but it means she's not resisting everything now. She's getting into the flow. So we can take a couple minutes if you want. The course houses break us down into groups, but we're so small, we're a group. What are some of the questions that you would have going into a seller consultation to tell them that you're the person to help them? We're going to talk about this, but just off the top, are there things that you wonder about?
I guess the initial question is, what is their motivation is though?
Okay, motivation is good. So sometimes with motivation, people will say, well, it's time to downsize. And that's really surface oriented. You might want to say, what does downsizing look like to you? Or why are you downsizing? Because one of the things we'll see further on in the course is sometimes people think they want to downsize. They have 2,000 square foot house and they think they all of a sudden want 900. And then everything you show them, they go, it's too small, and they're still looking at 2,000. So maybe it's that they didn't want the upkeep of the yard. Maybe it's that they want to be closer to family, but they still want the space where family can come visit. My cousins, when they moved from Boston to DC, she was ready for a small house. Her children were grown. And her husband said, no, we're still we're still the hub of the family. The kids come home. We're gonna have grandchildren come home. I still want us to be the gathering place. So they have this gorgeous house in Colorama. That's large. And I love going there because I get to stay on the third floor. It's really, really fun. So yeah, knowing their motivation, absolutely, Mel. So as we said, a qualified seller is ready, willing, and able. And our goal is to get the appointment, to get the listing agreement, and then to sell the house. So while all of our clients are amazing, and we're grateful that they chose to work with us, we need to use that triangle all the time for, leads, listings, and leverage. And we've already talked about that some. So the leads, you work those, you get the listings. The listings provide leverage of time, of marketing, of effort, of dollars, because off of every listing, we should get another listing and a buyer. And we get those through door knocking, through open houses, through all kinds of marketing, where somebody comes in and says, I came to your open house and it's not the one for me. Oh, well, I'm so glad you came in. Who are you working with?
Brian Laughlin.
You're working with Brian? May I tell Brian that you stopped in?
Yeah.
Because I'd love for him to know you came by. And then he's gonna get feedback from you about what you liked and what you didn't like, right? And I might call Brian and say, hey, Brian, Mel stopped in, she's great, I was thrilled to meet her. The house at 123 Main wasn't for her. I think she said that she really just didn't want to have to redo the kitchen, but I have this other listing. And that might make his life easy. Or he may say, thanks a lot, I know what to do. But it's communication, and it's building rapport. And I can't tell you the number of times that if I say to another agent, hey, what are they, or maybe their client didn't talk to me, maybe we super stayed in our lane. I'll say, what do you think they're looking for? Because they came to my waterfront listing, but this wasn't it. And I've got 3 other waterfront listings. And then I can say, have you looked at this one? You need to go see it. Or sometimes I'll say, have you looked at so-and-so's listing? Somebody else's. But it's okay because we've helped. So we love listings because they not only bring us the commission, they bring us the ability to build a relationship for repeat and referral business and best marketing. So you have the participant guide, which I think I don't have access to, but that's okay. So if you look at the participant guide, the list, I need to advance here. Sorry, guys. This is from the Millionaire Real Estate Agent. So how about, let's see, there are 5 of us and there's 6 items. Is everybody, I don't want to voluntold anyone. Is everybody okay reading, or would you rather not?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Okay, why don't we just start, read 1 line each, and then I'm going to come back to them and add a little bit of context. So Mel, you seem to start every time.
Okay, that's fine. Seller listings mean marketing opportunities.
You have more control of your time.
Several listings maximize your per hour compensation.
Volume.
With seller listings, you are on the front end of pricing. Properly marketed seller listings bring you more business.
Thank you all. So seller listings mean marketing opportunities. I wrote down signs, flyers, social media, opens. I should probably be asking you what you think, but those are some of the things where you have marketing opportunities, right? You have more control of your time. I kind of gave that example in the beginning for those of you who might not have been here. There's time up front to earn the listing, just like you earn the buyer, and then to set up the listing and get it active. Once it's active, you're certainly involved, but you're not, your physical presence is not needed for every showing the way it is with buyers. Because it's like you've cloned yourself, because while that is happening, while Brian's showing that property and Stephanie's showing one of my other listings, I can be working with Melinda, who's a buyer, to show her something else. And maybe I get 3 deals that day. You never know, right? Listings maximize your per hour compensation. That's pretty much what we said about how you spend your time. You can do more volume in listings and buyers, exactly what we talked about a few minutes ago. 12 to 15 listings versus about 6 buyers maxes out your energy. Being on the forefront of pricing creates an intimate knowledge of the market. So you're being proactive instead of reactive. So when you are handling a listing and determining a price, you're looking at the trends. You're looking at what's active as your competition, what's sold. Somebody took money out of their pocket and put it on the table, and you're making those comparisons and saying, this is what will work for you. And it's really just the inverse of what you do with buyers. You know, with buyers, you'll look at it and go, okay, what are we going to offer on this house? Where are the comps? This is what's going on. This is how much people paid for it. This is how long it was on the market. This is how much it changed over time. I hope I'm not jumping ahead too much, but I'll tell you that when I first started, I got my license in 2017, but I really dove in early 2018. It was in my region, the Northern Neck, it was a buyer's market, hands down. It had had a very slow recovery from 2008, 2009. We were still in that. We're starting to wrap it up, but we're still in it. And I could look at a listing, and based on the amount of time it had been on the market and whether or not there had been any reductions, I could say, James, you can buy this house for 10% less. You can buy this house for 20% less. This is what we're going to do, and you're going to get it. It wasn't that I was smart. I looked at the trends. And I went buyer, 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 and we got those contracts. And then at some point I went, listing is just the same thing. I'm looking at what's been happening, but I'm putting the price on it and marketing to those buyers instead of, you know, so it's a lot of people think it's real different. I don't, the time is different. The approach is not so different from my perspective. And then properly marketing the listings brings you more business. So what are some of the things you can do that we haven't mentioned yet to market the listings, or even that we have? What are the things that you enjoy to market? Think of some, or shall
Announce it at the sales meeting.
I?
Announce it at the sales meeting.
Announce it at the sales meeting. That's a great idea. That's leverage, right? Because 2 things. Someone might say, oh, what was that address? And they have a buyer, but that also shows you're doing things. You know, I want to talk to Brian because he seems to always have these rehab projects. I want to talk to Stephanie because she's got a lot in, I don't know, in the fan, whatever. I lived in Richmond for a long time, but things have changed. So if I say things that sound old to you, it's because they are. I wrote down, you know, there are 4 communities that I'm marketing to now. And it's because if I have a listing, before the listing, I'm going to door knock. During the listing, I'm going to try to update people. Sometimes you just make friends with the neighbor because they see you coming and going. Setting up for the open house, putting up the under contract sign, whatever it is. But once I've met those people, they're in my database, which means they get a postcard. Hey, this property sold, or thank you for coming to the open house. Or right now we're doing sort of end of the year. I'm making the message generic enough that my assistant can just change hello Mallard Bay residents to hello Nominee Bay Farms residents and send the rest out. But it's another touch. So that door knocking, and then me following up with something printed that's more personalized. I don't tell them how many homes I've sold unless it's in their neighborhood. In their neighborhood, I'll do pictures until they fill up the card of the house and did I represent the buyer or the seller? And that kind of helps. Okay. So if we look at the seller service cycle, it's 7 steps, 7 proven steps. So there's lead conversion, lead gen and follow-up, pre-listing, which we'll talk about today, listing consultation. These are all part of the transaction we'll talk about today. And then servicing and marketing, offers and negotiations you'll get in the next section of Ignite, contract to close and post-close systems you'll get in the next sections. But those are the 7 cycles. So you want to qualify people, all right? And that would be, you know, digging in. So you have the conversation, and you say, I'm gonna pick on somebody else. You have to tell me your name again.
Arnita.
Arnita, okay. So Arnita, maybe you call me, maybe I've door knocked and found you, but you say, you know, I really think I want to sell my house. And we start the conversation. And I'll say, I'd love the opportunity to help you. Tell me more about why you want to sell your house. And I don't mean to put you on the spot. So, you know, maybe you'll say to me, well, my kids are grown and my grandchildren are in so many activities, and I think I need to move closer to them because I'm too far away. Oh, okay. You just told me why you wanted to sell, what the motivation was. It was to be closer to family, right? If you had just said to me, well, I want to downsize, or the neighborhood's not right for me anymore, I would need to ask you, what does moving mean for you? Okay. And get to that. And then it might become, okay, so your goal is, and you repeat it, to be closer to your family. How would that feel for you? Well, you know, it would just be so easy because Saturday mornings I could go see the baseball game. Wednesday afternoon I could see the ballet recital, whatever it is. Okay, well, where are they? Well, they're just, you know, 2 neighborhoods down, or they're 2 states away. Great, I'm going to find out who I know they're referring. Because I want you to be in the best hands possible. I would love to help you here with the sale, but I want to be sure you're treated as well on the other end when you buy. But Arnita, for me to help you also, what's your timeline? Is it when it happens, or do you have a specific? So you see how you start digging in, because you need to know the what that I want to sell, the why, to really work with them and keep their motivation up top, the when and the where. And I just made up all those W's talking to you, but I thought to myself, there has to be, you know, a process we go through. And then so you can really help them get to all those points. I don't want to talk too much, but let me ask you, do things seem clear so far? Are there ahas? Are there questions?
No,
sir.
but can you go back to that previous slide for 1 second? For
You want to take a picture of it?
I got it.
You got it in your book?
I have my book lost.
Okay,
That's fine, thanks.
sure. So we'll go to keys to converting your A series. Respond right away to lead inquiries. I can't tell you how important that is. And that does not mean to be a jackrabbit that you're in the middle of a sales meeting or with somebody else. It's like, I have to stop and do this. No, but reasonably speaking, to respond. When I get something on my phone, if I'm sitting here in a sales meeting, if I'm in a seminar and I have my phone in front of me, I will not always, but I will sometimes just send a message and say, thank you, may I call you at 4 p.m. I send it. I don't start a conversation but I let them know I have it. My phone is on Do Not Disturb 99% of the time. It's on DND now, of course, because we're here. If it rings, I will tell you it's either a family member who shouldn't be calling me because they know I'm teaching this morning, or it's a very dear friend of mine who's ill, in which case I would take his wife's call and excuse myself. But it's on DND. And I tell my clients, buyer or seller, when I first meet them, Arnita, I'm so glad we're going to be working together. Let me tell you that I want to be absolutely responsive to you and to your needs. And just the way you have not seen my phone here, or maybe I have it out for a calendar, I'll say it's only here because, for calendar reference, I have my notifications turned off so that I'm uninterrupted talking with you. When we're not together, I may be with another client. I'm going to call you back as quickly as I can. And what I always get is, that's great, thank you. I also tell them that I have dinner with my family every evening. And that if we're in the middle of negotiations, I'm going to do whatever needs to be done time-wise. But if we're not in negotiation, if it can wait till the next morning, then I'll call back then. Every now and then you get somebody who does shift work, or they'll say, I'm in a secure location at my job. I cannot have my phone with me during the day. And in which case I'll probably say, great, is 8 o'clock in the evening good for you? Because that's a time that's good for me for about 20 or 30 minutes. And so we, customize it. All right, so respond to the lead inquiries, get valid and complete contact information and save it to command and create the opportunity. So easy to do as you go. When you're under contract and trying to get paid and you're trying to do it all at the last minute, it's a pain into everything. So I would just do that. Determine their motivation, so you can speak to it. So we talked about that, but it might be something like, as we're going through the whole process, James, I know several times we've talked about you being closer to those family members. So this is part of the process to do this. Or James, hey, we've got an offer. Let's review this. Yeah, I know it's off a little bit, but let's review it because remember, this is the goal. I'm working with somebody now. They've done a great job paying down their mortgage in 2 years. They've almost cut it in half, which is great. But they've only been in the house 2 years and they're in an area where appreciation is slow. It's unlikely that they're going to have a profit on the house. They might break even. They might have a little bit of a loss. And what we talked about, because they're super motivated, they realized it's nice here, but we really want to be here. So what we talked about is if you're $5,000-$10,000, I hate to use the term in the hole, but in the hole, loss, would you pay $5,000 to $10,000 more for your next house to be where you are? And they said, yeah. I said, okay, so we're going to do our best, but you just have to think about it that way. You have to think about the goal. And they're like, okay. So that's part of the goal. It could be monetary, it could be geographical. Set an appointment, date and time as soon as possible, and send the pre-listing package. So it might be, Stephanie, that's great. I am really looking forward to meeting you. You told me that you're off this weekend, whatever. And I look at my calendar and I'm going to say, would Saturday at 11 work for you? And you're going to tell me yes or no. Sometimes I might want to give people 2 things. Is Saturday at 11 or Sunday at 4 better for you? Give them one or the other. But I would caution against saying, oh, I'm free all day Friday. Even if what you have on your calendar is when you go to the gym, when you do your lead gen, when you start off with the posture of, can you make it here? Because you not only respect your own time, which is going to be healthier for you and more productive for you long term, but you let them know that you are not wide open. You're busy. And if you're not busy now, you will be. So you get in that. And then the pre-listing packet we'll talk about. There are all kinds of charts. Some of us are good at keeping percentages in our head. I'm not one of them. So, you know, we can look at what people want from their agent. Pricing competitively, marketing the home. I mean, to me, those are the obvious things. The goal is to sell the home. The goal is to buy the home, whichever side of the deal you're on. Okay, and everything else comes into play there. But even helping with the documents, whether it's paper or whether it is, or whether it's electronic, is important. I have a seller right now. She's one of the kindest, sweetest people you will ever meet. And she is the biggest nervous Nelly I have ever met. And she will not, she didn't want to do any DocuSign. But we live 3 hours away from each other in terms of where she is now and the property that's being sold. And every time she has to DocuSign something, whether it's full signature or whether it's initial, I send it to her, I text her, are you comfortable doing this? I give her a quick synopsis of what it is. I will be available at 4 p.m., whatever it is. And she, one time now she's signed on her own, but the other time she'll say, I look forward to hearing from you. And I call her and it may take 10 minutes to get one initial, but she'll go, okay, now I'm gonna push the purple button. Okay, I see this. Say, all right, look for this. Oh, I see it. And then she starts talking to me about something. I'll say, okay, well, let's get back to this. And then finish is really hard for her. Okay, remember, look at the top right for the finish button. Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. And then she does it and she gets all giddy and goes, I did it. I said, yeah, you did it. You did a really good job. So she's, you know, everybody is just different. And if she was abusive, if she wasn't nice, I would probably say, this might not be a good fit. But she's just nervous and she's afraid of electronics. Not that she's ever used them, but she's afraid of fraud. And so you just have to work with that and help the person through it. Sometimes here we say hand holding. My husband would say baby steps. Just take people through it because this is something that we do every day, again and again and again. And as much as we say we're the expert, we're always learning. I can't tell you, at least once a month, if not once a week, I go, I got something new. How do I handle it? How would I do it differently next time? What do I do? For the client, they might do this once in their life. They might do it 5 or 6 times. But over the course of a lifetime, 5 or 6 times isn't much. And things change in between and they don't have any reason to remember what they did before. So you have to take them step by step. And it's communicating over and over and over again. Even in the beginning, when you say, here's the process. When you get to that step in the process, do it again. When you get beyond that step, you might have to say, remember when we did this. And I will repeat over and over, Patrice, just be the voice of calm. Okay. Okay. So through the process, you were building confidence and trust. Can you see how when you take people through step by step with your knowledge and guiding them, that builds confidence in who you are to be their guide? And usually if somebody has confidence in you, then they trust you. I, went to get my haircut yesterday. And Scott says, do you want to do this or do you want to do this? I said, Scott, the great thing about coming to see you is I can't do a thing except sit here and I trust you. So just do what you need to do. Because I've seen him for so many years, I know the quality of his work. And whether y'all think I look good or not, doesn't matter. I know he does the best job for me. So he has my complete trust. I could have come out blonde and I would have said, thank you for the experiment. So as you talk to the seller to get the appointment, remember in conversation to lay the foundation of your relationship. You're their fiduciary. Right? We'll talk about what fiduciary means and about what you're going to do in process. A transaction agent just goes through the steps of you want a house, you want 3 bedrooms, this is your budget, sign here, thank you very much, here are the keys. And that might happen in developments. I haven't worked in developments, I don't know, but from the descriptions I read, I think that can happen. You as someone who's helping them find the right property based on their criteria and their goals, or sell their property so they can move to their next chapter in life. You are their fiduciary, meaning you are going to listen to anything they tell you and literally take it to your grave, unless it is illegal. Okay. And you are going to represent them, their goals, and their highest interest financially and personally. You're not representing somebody else, unless we get into dual agency, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But you're going to lay that foundation. And the first goal is to connect, building confidence and trust. You need to exude confidence. I'm a big proponent of fake it till you make it. And what does that mean? That means putting on the outfit, putting a smile on your face. Smile, by the way, smile when you're on the phone with people. It makes a huge difference. Sit up straight when you're on the phone with people. Some people laugh and say I look good from here up on Zoom and I've got on my bedroom slippers, and I tend to slouch when I do that. Doesn't mean I have to be completely set, but I'm gonna put on loafers instead of bedroom slippers. And I'm not gonna be in my PJs, but that's me. It makes me sit differently. And it doesn't matter what has happened before I get on the phone or before I walk in to see a client. I'm like, there's the smile. And even if I've got a lot going on, just that act of smiling, it put all that stuff in back. And then I can go in and go, Brian, I'm so glad to see you. I'm happy to be here. Let's sit down and talk about how I can help. And I have just tuned everything else out. And my only concern is Brian, what he needs to tell me to accomplish. Right? And that's gonna get, it gives me confidence. And if I'm exuding confidence, then he's gonna go, she paid attention to me. Does that make sense? So during the process, you're going to ask questions and you're going to listen and you're going to show that you care. A lot of times in here, we'll say people don't care what you know until they know that you care, right? And it's true. So but it's a delicate balance because you're listening to people. Sometimes they might need to tell you a story, but you really don't have the time and the energy for their whole life story and everything that's going on. So you have to bring them back to focus. Sometimes I work a lot with seniors. Sorry to say I am one, but I work a lot with seniors who are really struggling. I don't want to sell, but I know I need to sell. Why do you need to sell? Because the house is too big for me to handle. Because I already have a reverse mortgage and I don't have the money to do the things I need to do. Because don't want to miss out on my grandchildren growing up, and they're in Georgia and I'm here. Whatever it is, you need that, and then you need to respect it and say, Stephanie, I hear you. It sounds like being with your grandchildren would be a great move for you. And I can understand that it's hard to leave the home you've been in for 30 years. I see all your family pictures here. And I'm sure every one of them, when you look at them, is meaningful to you. And I get the nods, right? And what we're going to do is we're going to help you. I'm going to simplify this so that you can make that move. All these memories go with you, but then you're making new memories. And then talking about the staging is a whole different thing. Because when you've got all the photos there, it's like, if I don't get to that, remind me and I'll come back to it. But so it's a balance. And if someone goes on and on and on and on about something, you may have to find a break and say, I love hearing how this is important to you. I told you we would meet for 90 minutes and I want to be sure I respect your time. So let's focus on this right now. That usually gets people back. If you get Aunt Millie who goes, oh, I've got all afternoon, honey. You might have to say, well, I planned this time and actually I don't. I need to help you with this. And if you don't want to say go to another client because it makes them sound like one's more important than the other, you might say, and my dentist is expecting me. It's not a terrible thing if you have to. Or just I have another appointment and leave it at that. But it's a balance. Sometimes you have to say something, if somebody gets off on a slew of questions, you might have to say, Arnita, we're gonna get to that in just a minute. Let me follow this line so you can understand the first steps, and we're gonna talk about that. Or if you're on the phone with people setting the appointment, and they start saying, well, let me ask you. It would be so good to talk about that when we meet. Because one, you want to get the appointment. Two, you don't want to do all the appointment on the phone. It sort of defeats the purpose. In person is great. So when you are closing, show the benefits of working with yourself. The take back close is if someone seems a little bit, you're not sure it's a good fit, or they're not sure it's a good fit. You know, you might say something like, well, Mel, you know, it just might not be the time for you. And then Mel is probably either gonna go, you're right, now that I've talked to you, it's not, I'm staying here forever. Or she's gonna go, oh, no, I didn't say that. It's like taking it away a little bit. Trying to think of another example, maybe a child's learning to do something and they have some kind of prize for getting through the exercise. Well, I don't know, maybe it's not the time for you. Oh, no, I'm gonna do that because I want the Jack in the Box. Oh, well, maybe that's a bad example. But that's the take back. Negative, positive close. You seem to want to do this, but you're hesitant. If you do it, this will be the result. And you tell them what the positive is. If you don't do it, you've said, this is the result, and it's the negative. And it brings them back to their motivation. Give them what they're looking for. That's really the positive. You know, we can get this done for you so you can move to whatever next is. Y'all have to understand too, I work with seniors so often. If I'm not talking about families and ballet lessons and sports things, bring me back to that because you, okay, so let's see if I can give an example of what you're looking for. So that we can get you into that neighborhood with a bazillion kids in the swimming pool. Right? I guess that's more like it. It's not my world. The trial close is, you know, you're saying, so this, we've talked about this and this sounds great. Let's go ahead and set up the appointment. Or if you're at the appointment, you know what? Everything we've just talked about, I'm ready to get going. I think you are too. I have literally turned things around and had somebody sign. Then I had to talk to their children later, but we got through that too, and we're still really good friends. The assumptive close. I go into every call and every appointment with the assumption that we're already working together. Stephanie, I'm so glad you called me. You know, Brian asked me to give you a call. We had that introductory text, and he has told me so many fabulous things about you. I'm really excited to get started together. You're sitting there with them. Mel, I understand that you just got married and you're all excited and you want to get that house. And you have told me so many cool things. I've already got houses in my head that I think would be great for you. And so are you all available Saturday or Sunday? Because I really want to get this booked. It's an interesting market and there's some things available right now. So you see how it's not, I never say if you work with me. You want to earn the business. And you don't want to be pushy. And I'm not supposed to talk about politics, but I will tell you this. I think every presidential debate I have ever seen, whether it's in the primary or the actual, the candidate who says, if you elect me, never wins. Never wins. There could be all kinds of other factors, but at least in the primary, when they start out on the if, they don't win. So, and the tie downs. So let's set the appointment. So let's set the appointment to meet, the tie down. Let's sign here. I have the photographer come in. I had the last one, it was really fast. I got a lead through, you all know James Shaw? Okay, so I'm part of the Inspired Collective. And I was driving back from Norfolk the other day, and I get this call, and I don't always answer the, the calls that I don't recognize, but I had my calls off of DND because of something I was listening to, and I went, oh, well, I'm driving, I'll see who it is. And the guy introduces himself, and he says, I'm part of the Inspire Collective, and I'm working with a buyer in Sarasota who needs to sell where you are. Can you help me? So that was, what's today? I think that was Thursday. I met with them Friday, which was really inconvenient. But when I looked at my calendar, if I didn't do it then, I couldn't do it for a week. So I met with them. We signed. We had photos Monday. I'll have it active. I'll have it coming soon tonight, and I'll have it active with an open house this weekend. But and that warm handoff from the referral is great. But I just went with it totally.
I have a question, if it's okay to ask.
Yeah, please interrupt. Yeah.
That handoff like that, how did the listing appointment go? Because it sounds like it went pretty quick.
Yeah, we signed then.
Also, when you showed up, he was just ready to sign the paperwork.
So he sent me a slew of questions.
Ah, that's the kind of stuff.
He sent me a slew of how long have you been in the industry? Do you represent buyers or sellers? How familiar are you with my region? Trying to remember what else he asked. And I answered 2 or 3 of them. And I just said, I'm so glad you sent the questions. I am driving for the next couple of hours. Let me answer 1, 2, and 3, and I will call you at whatever time I gave him, And then I called and I said, hey, I want to go through this. Some of this is going to be so much easier to answer in person. Are you good if we meet at, and we hammered out the time that suited them and suited me.
So you met via Zoom?
No, I went to their house.
Oh, so he wasn't in Sarasota?
No,
Oh, you
no,
delivered
sorry.
that.
They're buying in Sarasota. Their buyer agent referred them to me to sell their house that's in my
I'm with you now.
in my bailiwick. Yeah. So no, I went and met with them. I would meet with someone in Zoom if they weren't local. I work with a lot of families of older folks, whether the people are still here and their families are helping them or whether they've passed on. And so a lot of times we will do that by Zoom.
The bottom line, he was amenable to your.
He is so motivated to get to Sarasota. He is really, really motivated. And I said, okay, you're motivated. I need to meet you. We need to get this done. Now, so I answered, I went in and, obviously introduced myself. And people will say, do you want to sit first? Do you want to see the house first? I said, can I put my things on your kitchen table? It was a big open area. The house is only 2 years old. It's really in the right condition. And I said, let me walk through. And that way, when we sit down, we can talk about everything. Okay, great. And they kind of followed me and I asked some questions along the way. And then we sat down and you always compliment someone on their house. If it's a dump, you compliment them. And the Dale Carnegie approach is always say something nice that you can say honestly. So if somebody thinks black is a terrible color on me, but they love the blue, that blue jacket is great. You just ignore the rest.
Sure. So
Yeah.
while you're walking through at that point, they want to show you the house as the agent, listing agent. What are you looking for at that time? Are you with a pad and pen, or are you just making an observation?
I do have a pad and pen. I try and take actually as few notes as possible because I only want to write down things that need attention. I'm looking for what needs attention. So their house was great. I mean, unusually great. So as I'm walking through and I see the epoxy floor in the garage, I go, wow, you've got an epoxy floor. Buyers absolutely love this. They had slot machines in their garage. So that made for an interesting little bit of conversation. When we got to the bathroom, the paint on the ceiling was super uneven. And so I said, hey, tell me what's going on up here. You know, so I asked more of an open-ended question. They said, well, you know, when the house was built, we didn't notice till later, they really didn't do a good job. And I tried to touch it up and that didn't work. And over the weekend, I'm just gonna paint the entire ceiling. I said, great, you're on it. Very few houses that I go in need that little attention. Usually I'm taking notes. And when we sit down, I will say, your house is great. I can tell that in the 30 years you've been here, you have really collected things that mean a lot to you. Your family photos, your mementos from your travels, your maps with the pins of every place you've been and where you want to go. They're great. As we get the house ready for market, we need to make the house a little leaner so that people can see themselves living here.
Love the way.
All,
Right.
thank you. You need to, you know, because somebody told me early on, the buyer needs a place for their eyes to rest. And they want a calm space. They need to see themselves there, right? So if Arnita has 40 pictures of her family, the buyer might end up going, wow, look at her family. They never see the house. They just don't see it. So thank you, James, for saying you liked the language. On the flip side, what I would avoid is we need to declutter your house. Or we need to neutralize your house. Or we need to remove, you know, all those things are demeaning to somebody. They're not intended to be, but they see it as taking away what they've invested in. If we focus instead on the goal, your house is great. It's so personalized for you. The way we help others see themselves here is, oh, I have to take down all my pictures. Yeah, but it's only for a little while to get this goal so that you can put them back up in your new place. Right? So James, when I'm going through, I'm looking for, I'm always going to compliment them on something, but I'm looking for what needs to be done, whether it's repair, whether it's refreshing, whether it's putting away knickknacks, whether it is cleaning, which people find offensive, but you know, you have to focus on the goal. All right, so,
Thank you.
oh yeah. Questions versus objections, answer them. I think the book spent a lot of time, it seemed to me, focusing on objections in the phone call. I think that a lot of that is done face to face, if in fact there are objections. I think if you get too far down the line on the phone, you never get to the call. Having said that, if you have someone that you're working with that's out of town, you've got to do it on Zoom or on the phone. If you have a buyer that's coming in town and they're going to be here for one day, you've got to maximize your time and you've got to do all of that on the phone or by Zoom. So just do the best that you can. So I feel like something was skipped here. All right. So keep smiling. Well, I've got my notes and I've got our guide. And don't assume anything. Oh yeah, this is so important. With the objections and the questions, go back. It's like a text. Don't read emotion into it. Don't say, what did they really mean? The example I'll give you is several years ago in my contracting business, there was a back and forth between a salesperson and an admin person. And she came to me and she goes, and he said in his text, well, go for it, get it done. I said, really? Maybe he said, go for it, get it done. You know, if somebody says to you, that was the example that was given here, why are you suggesting such a low price range? Don't, unless you've heard them with attitude in it, don't think there's attitude in it. Because your answer might be, pricing's a strategy. The buyers bring the value to the table. They actually take their money out of their pocket and say, this is what I'll pay. But the pricing is a strategy to get the biggest audience, to get eyes on the property, to get people through the door, to get feedback. Best example is earlier this summer, I had someone who had looked at so many waterfront homes and they kept shooting too high. And they kept getting, I mean, when I say shooting too high, starting high, and it didn't leave them any room to negotiate up. And they kept getting beat. And we found a property on the water in Deltaville, and it was like 554. And the buyer said to me, that's a strategic price, right? I said, yep, it's meant to get your attention, get you to go look at it. It's not gonna be the price where it sells. And she bought it for 608. So, you know, there are two lessons there. One is the pricing is exactly what I said, a strategy to get people in. And the other is if your buyer's top number is whatever it is X, and you're in a market where you know that you need to bid up, you need to start below X. Does that make sense? Yeah, James?
In that particular scenario, that 608, was that the result of an escalation clause?
Yes.
Or that's what you ran up?
They was actually another agent I was working with, but she was from a different region, and so she wanted representation. And smart on her, she referred herself, so that, you know, referred her husband or something. That's fine. So, the offer that she put in was above ask, because that was another way to say to somebody, I see what's going on and I want the house. And then she had an escalation. And I don't think she got to the top of her escalation, but it definitely came into play. But that had been our experience at that time of year in that region. If you didn't escalate, you weren't gonna get it.
But it also highlights too, that your knowledge of the. All right. Just some chance.
You have to know your area.
I see.
And, you know, even now, I mean, I like going to broker opens to just an open. Or if I can't get that on my schedule, I've already got other stuff on it. I might say, oh gosh, this property came on the market. I'm gonna swing by on my way to and just do a drive-by, look at the neighborhood to see from the outside, is the house in good condition? If I have really no time and I'm working it in, I'll do the drive-by. If I have 15 minutes, I might call and say, James, I'm gonna be in Larchmont. Can I please get into 123? That's a neighborhood in Norfolk. Can I get in? I just want to do a really quick preview for one of my clients. Yep. Most welcome. Excuse me. So don't read emotion into it. Just again, be calm and either answer the question with your knowledge, or if you're not sure, you can say, well, can you tell me more about your question? And have them, you know, maybe they rephrase it. Well, I'm asking you because it really seems low to me, or I'm asking you because I've heard there's a benefit of going low. Or is that because you expect bids? I mean, it really, bidding on a house is like an auction. If the auctioneer starts at $100 and they don't get any bids, they have to go down to $10 or something, and then they end up selling for 200. But we don't want to get into that because days on market is the enemy. Okay. Any ahas or questions right now?
Yes, yeah, mastering the language. So the way you speak now is a result of your experience. Were you taking classes? Was this because that's it really matters. Talking to me.
3 things.
Okay.
Use as much positive language as you can. Listen to others, like getting on the pivot call every morning. If you don't know what that is, I'll tell you at the break, or I'll tell you all. But anyway, get on that because you hear from other people constantly. And it's, you know, whatever we surround ourselves with is kind of what comes out of our mouth and how we think. And the third is just practice. Anna Kruger will say that it takes 10,000 hours of doing something to really internalize it and just have it be a part of you that comes naturally. I can remember my primary care doc, who's right down the street there on Glenside. We started seeing him, I think he was right out of residency. And he came in one day and I said, Dr. Kagotis, there's something different about you. And he said, I just saw my 10,000th, and that was so hard to say, patient. And it's just, that's a lot of time.
Sure.
It's a lot of time, whether it's hours for him or patience for him. But it's like anything else. You have a hobby or enjoy cooking. There are things you do that if you had to teach somebody else, you'd probably have to stop and think about what you do. Because it's so natural to you at this point. You just go through the flow.
We
Right.
call it unconscious competence.
There you go. That's it. And I think it comes through positivity, being willing to learn and try and really looking for those positive words. Listening to others, whether it's a specific class or whether it's just day-to-day surrounding yourself with those people and practice. Catherine Ham, if you see her, she avoids using the word but. She'll say and. I think this is great, and it would be even better if, as opposed to, but this is. So, yes, practice.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So, what we'll do is, we have 2 sections today. I was gonna try and get through the first section. We'll take a break. Okay, everybody cool? So E to P. What's the difference? What do you all think the difference is in being entrepreneurial and P, which is being purposeful? Any thoughts?
Entrepreneurial is like just going through the motions and maybe not seeing a continuous result. Where professional is you're using your data, you're using your data to guide your practice, purposeful, focused, and adhering to the systems that you put in place.
You just said something really cool that I don't think you meant to say, but I loved it, which is the P stands for purposeful, and you said P is being professional through purpose.
Mhm.
And you're absolutely right. The P stands for purposeful in our model, but that's how you become professional. The entrepreneurial, I mean, I love that word. Oh, you're an entrepreneur. It means you create things, you think about things, you figure out things. Why do we want to figure it out if there's a system and a model that has a proven record and sets us on that track? Why do we want to go down a road and not know where we're going? We want, whether it's GPS or a map or written instructions or whatever, we take the detour when we have to, but there's a plan. And so when we do that, and I'll be honest, it's something that is, I've done well, and I need to continue to do well, and there's always this little bit of pull in me. And so it's one of my challenges to stay, I'm purposeful here, but to stay purposeful in my actions, to follow the systems and models and be super consistent. And when we talk about what are our wins, sometimes we focus on, I got the listing, I got the buyer listing, we got through the inspection. Those are wins. But probably what's a more important win is, did I lead gen today? Did I update command? Did I talk to new people? Did I do some reading? Because when you do the things that stimulate growth, all those other things happen. And so, if your wins for the week was, I did what I needed to do every day, and therefore this was the result at the end of the month, is better than I couldn't get to all those things I'm supposed to do because I was busy running around doing all this stuff. And then all of a sudden, it's like you have to start over. So those things are really, really important. And, a lot of times we talked about, and it says right here, much of what we talk about in Ignite is learning models and systems to create a business that is as large and as profitable as you desire. I think that is last 3 words, as you desire, is what's important. I've had people talk to me in other businesses about boats and planes and big houses, and I don't give a rip about them. I really don't. If they want a cigarette boat and a 10,000 square foot house and a private plane, well, great. That's not what's important to me. What's important to me is that I have a house that I can make into a home that's comfortable for my family and that I have peace of mind. And so it's different for everyone. So when Gary Keller talks about building a big business and building a big life, to me, that is important because as you build, you have choices and you have security and you have the options to, I already said choices. So yeah, build it big, whether that, for some people, that means a team. For some people, it means adding leverage and staying solo. As you focus on what you want and do the things you need, you'll have more confidence to all of a sudden go, oh, I did 10 deals last year. I just did 15. I'm going to do 20 this year. And especially if you have the listings, that becomes simpler to accomplish. But you have that bigger business that has the leverage, so it doesn't depend just on you, that produces a bigger income, that gives you more security, that gives you more options. There are different ways to produce passive income too, which is nice, and to make it as you desire. Right? I hope that makes sense. Pre-listing packet. So this is something I'm actually trying to get better about. Let's be transparent. But the pre-listing packet is something you could deliver, whether it's couriered, whether you drop it off on somebody's doorstep, whether you say, Brian, I'm going to be in your neighborhood this afternoon. I just want to drop something off. I know we're scheduled to meet the next day, but I want to put something in your hands to look through before we meet. If they're at a distance, you know, you can send them an electronic packet, but it's basically who you are. It's nice to see a picture before you meet somebody. That way you know you're meeting the right person. Your value proposition. Maybe it has some information about your experience, whether it's how long you've been in the business or your sales. If you're new and you don't have that, I'm so pleased to be with the Market Center with, you know, 200 agents and this many sales. And, or if you don't want to get into numbers, you can say, my Market Center is invested in its agents. We are constantly teaching and learning regardless of, I don't know if you want to say regardless if we're new, because that might put the question to, but anyway, at every stage. But you find ways to promote who you are and your value. I used these Market Center stats when I started because I didn't have any stats. It saves time. It makes the consultation experience, if not shorter, then smoother, because it's just like going to, excuse me, any other business. If you're going to join a gym, you might have said, you know, Arnita recommended this gym. She talks about it all the time. That's the one I'm going to join. That was her pre-listing package, or the gym's pre-listing package. It was Arnita's testimony. Or you might go, I'm new to the area and I need a gym, or I need an art class, or I need a whatever it is. And you go online and you start finding the different ones. And then what are their reviews? Who said what about their hours? What's the condition of the equipment? And so that's sort of the pre-listing package. When we deliver the package, we're saying to the client, this is who I am. This is what I bring to the table. And so hopefully when you sit down, if they've taken the time to look at it, they don't always, then they can say, Stephanie, thank you so much for dropping this off. I feel like I already know you. But you're going to say to them when you meet, James, did you have a chance to look at the listing package? And if James says no, I've been busy, you're going to say, that's okay. It's got some information about me. I really wanted, when you get a chance, or we can pull it out now, you know, right here, I've shown you the company I'm associated with. And over here, I've shown you the area I usually work. And so, you know, I want you to know that I have experience and I understand the neighborhood, or I understand where you're going. You know, what I have in mind, it's really simple. I probably need to add a little bit to it, but I let people know that I come from a contracting background. That, I focused then and focus now on your goal, not mine, and how best to accomplish that. That I communicate like crazy, that whether it's the buyer or the seller, it's your goal that's important, and that I'm your fiduciary. I stop and talk about what fiduciary means to people. Not for a whole long time, but I make sure they understand. And if they've never heard the word, they're impressed. And if they have heard the word, they probably heard it on an advertisement for some market trading where they go, and I'm your fiduciary, so I only make money when you make money. But it elevates the service that you're providing. So that pre-listing package is super, super helpful. And what you're doing is giving them a preview of you. And then you're saying, you know, you want them to be able to say, you know, I looked through that packet and Stephanie, I want you. If you can walk in and they're already thinking that, then it's, instead of me saying, I'm so glad to meet you, they're going, oh, I'm glad you're here. Right? So that's really helpful. So the pre-listing packet could include, you know, decide whether or not you're going to review it at the presentation. Does it eliminate the need for a listing consultation, or is it a primer? Right? The pre-listing pack for me, because again, I deal with so many people who are not local, might be, you know, hey, John, I went over and looked at mom's house, and here's what I found. And, you know, I'm gonna send you the documents to sign so we can get going. So, I had a guy I worked with, this spring and summer. We met once for 10 or 15 minutes, but he lives, it's in Florida. He lives in the Panhandle. His mother's home and sadly his mom were destroyed in a fire. And he needed to get that thing off his plate. It was wrenching, right? So we talked about what his goals were. And in that case, it was pretty much, I'd like to do this, but I need to get it done. Get it done. We had to work through some legal things before he could do it. I'm not an attorney, right? I will work with attorneys and whoever is needed to understand, but I try and figure out what's going on, who's involved, where my input is needed, and where I need to stay in my lane and simply find out when's the best time for me to call you back, because then we know it's ready to go. It's a difference in the client being ready and the client being able because of a court issue. Okay, so we'll talk more about the listing packet as we get into the presentation. But you might have things like a cover page, your contact information, what your promise is to the seller. Your general process overview, general pricing information. You know, that this wasn't identified in here. I don't think they're talking about the neighborhood. I think they're talking about if you have a menu of services. So for instance, if you said, my fee is this for these services, I can lower it if you just want me to put it in the MLS, but you're going to take all the phone calls and do all the showings. I don't do that personally, but that's the example I give people. And I have to add on, if I'm doing all the project management because your house needs to be emptied, it needs to be fumigated, it needs to be painted, there's repair, and I'm doing all of that. John Pace would tell me, he told me a couple years ago, you're undervaluing yourself, add on for that. And then sometimes you have to go, but there's a whole lot of competition. How bad do I want this job?
What was it? I didn't hear you clearly. You said you had to validate yourself for that? What did you say?
Have to make sure that you are valuing yourself,
Okay.
not cutting yourself short. Okay, so just as you did for the buyer's consultation, you need to follow up. Follow-up is key. So you deliver the pre-listing pack, you confirm the appointment date. Be safe. Realtors, we're a funny breed. If we meet people we don't know in empty houses and on lonely streets. And a couple times a year, something really bad happens. So whether it's forewarn or whatever system you have, use it. Check people out, buyer or seller. I started a draft to one of our brokers to ask the question. I haven't finished that yet, but it's about safety. Anytime I am meeting someone, because I don't, part of this brokerage, and glad to be, but because I live 80 miles from here out in the sticks, I will say to my husband, here's where I'm going today, and I give him the addresses. And if I'm meeting someone I've never met before, I try to get there before they do. When their car pulls up, I've got that smile on my face, and I take a picture of their license plate. They'll see me take it, and I text it to him before they can say anything usually. And then when they get out of the car, I'll say, I'm so glad to meet you. Thank you. And you may have seen me take a picture, company policy for safety purposes. And I've always gotten, oh, yeah, that makes sense. Thank fortune, I've never come across anybody bad. But I will tell you, when I'm going into houses, especially if it's in a really lonely place, I will unlock the door. Please go right ahead. I don't go in front of them. The same thing walking through the house. If it's somebody I've known for a while, it's going to be different. But, and I will tell you one really bad story. Well, quasi bad. This was before real estate, but I was on a sales call in Northern Virginia, actually in Maryland. And it was a very fancy schmancy neighborhood. And I pulled up and I knew something was wrong because the front yard was just, it was a disaster. And it's like, properties that 15 years ago were, 1.5, $2 million. Today would probably be 5 in that market. There's no reason that this French provincial looking place with a circular drive and a fountain and everything should have looked unkempt. And I didn't listen to my instincts because I'm strong and I can do this. And I went and knocked on the door, and the guy was on the phone and had on a bathrobe. And again, I went, okay, well, he's just running late. And I went inside, and he was very nice. And he said, I'll be with you in a few minutes. I got to finish this call. And he went to the back of the house.
I'm just speculating where the story's gonna go, that's all.
So then, while he's gone, I go over and I'm looking at this semicircular marble stairway that I'm supposed to survey to put a stair lift on. And I noticed there's dirty underwear all over the floor. Yeah. So it went from weird to weirder to gross,
Yeah.
right? I turned around. I left. I drove out of the property. I called my office and I called the manufacturer who had sent me the lead. And I told them the truth. I wasn't comfortable being there. I wasn't going to send our staff there. And I said, if the man calls, just tell him, you were on the phone and I determined early that unfortunately it was something we couldn't help you with. I told the truth. I just didn't say, I'm not working with your nasty self. Right? So what would I do differently today? I would probably still knock on the door. I remember saying to him, oh, did you all just move in? He goes, oh no, we've been here 6 years. I thought that should have been a clue to me. But, don't be afraid to say, I'm not comfortable. Trust your instincts, especially ladies. I don't know about at your age, but at my age, we were trained to ignore our instincts. Guys aren't. You all are trained to follow your instincts. And we all need to do that. So that's my little preachy thing about safety. And if you don't have the person like I do, my husband, to send that license plate to or that address to, send it to an accountability partner. You can send it to the office, but I think it's important to send it to somebody that, you know, you're gonna talk to later.
Mhm.
And that's not to scare you, but it's just, it's being streetwise, it's being street smart. If you were in a sales position with a company, they'd say, Brian, here's your list for today. Right? And then you'd report back. So sometimes we have to take that attitude. Let me get through just a little bit more and we'll take a break. So getting the signed listing agreement. Does anyone want to read? Or my place?
One, create a great impression to build the seller's confidence in you as their real estate agent of choice. Number two, share your price recommendation, initial list price for their property and your reasoning behind it. Number three, set expectations for how you will market the home and work with sellers.
Great. So, I mean, you can think about the buyer's packet. What are some of the things that you think you could do to show the seller why you are the agent to help them achieve their goals?
Through conversation, like platonic communication, that you're listening to their motivation and you're just listening in general to what
Good
you're
listener.
saying and using like mirroring language and stuff like that.
Exactly, and that's a good place, going back to James's earlier question, to take notes. You know, you don't want to have your head down so much that you're not looking at them, but when they say, I want to be closer to my grandchildren, or they have the young family and say, I want a neighborhood where with other families where my children can grow up and I can make friends. Oh, okay, great. A family neighborhood, you know, and then they see you're paying attention as well. So yeah, listening, mirroring, taking notes, experience. What industry were each of you in before real estate? And you were in education. Education, were you a teacher or admin? Okay. What industry, James?
I was in a different aspect of real estate.
Okay, what aspect?
Association management
Okay, cool. One of my
and mortgages early before that.
One of my good friends and colleagues, her husband is retired from the REIT Association. Is there an association for REIT?
REIT.
Mhm.
I imagine
That's a
real
trade
estate
association.
investment trust.
Yeah, but it's sort of a trade association with that, I think.
Financial services.
Okay,
But what I was talking about was HOAs, just
Okay.
like homeowners associations.
yeah, they do confuse me, but
Yeah.
I come to appreciate them though. Financial management, did you say?
Yeah, financial services, banking, mortgage, whatever.
Okay,
Fraud.
okay, talking about fraud a lot lately, huh?
Law,
A lot, what aspect?
attorney.
Did tell me that. You were talking about before. What, specialty?
Worse in criminal defense.
So sorry. Say something funny about that in a second. But, you know, you can pull on your previous career, your previous profession, if you don't have real estate experience. And whether you say, in my experience as an education administrator, or whether you say, okay, I had this situation where I had to deal with this teacher and this counselor and this family, and this is how we brought everybody together, and you go, well, you know, when I've dealt with situations of conflict before, what I've found is, or you don't want to get into the law aspect, but you know, you can say to somebody, I know that if we look at the facts and talk this through, what we're going to find is, et cetera. Okay, kind of help, you know, just pull on what experience you have. Think of it more, instead of maybe sales or real estate. What does this situation have in common? What am I actually trying to accomplish here? And you'll find more commonality than you won't. I'm dealing with financial services. I'm dealing with people's money and the facts and how they can apply it to what they want to accomplish. You know, and you find that point. When my husband and I were getting married, we went down to the city of Richmond to get our license. And it was in some basement building, it wasn't John Marshall Forest building, but anyway, it was in the basement. And there was two signs, and one side said civil, and it had a list of the different things that came under civil, and the other side said criminal and meritorious. But we've lasted on this legally almost 42 years, so I guess we're doing okay.
Right.
Okay, so you want to get that listing agreement. You're going to. All right, so I'm just gonna read this to you because it's written really, really well. Create the impression to build the seller's confidence. We've talked about that a lot, and make you their choice. Share your price recommendation and your reasoning behind it. I think most of the reasoning is going to be market stats, trends, strategy. And you're gonna say to people, and because Mel's on the pivot call, she's heard everything I'm gonna say, it's not new. But you need to win a pricing war in a beauty contest. And I will say to people, pricing war doesn't mean we're the lowest. It means we're going to use price for strategy to get attention. And the beauty contest, we want people to see themselves in your house. Now, if it's a beautiful house, great. If it's a dump, you need to talk about opportunity. But it needs to be clean. There's no reason not to have a clean house. Occasionally I get one that truly is a dump. Somebody just wants to get it sold. I'm just gonna go opportunity, opportunity, opportunity. You know, you can only do what you can do. But you try to take the positive, or if it's not for you, then you don't do it. The price is designed to get their home sold in the shortest amount of time and for the most money possible. I will tell people that sometimes the best deal is the one that comes together. I am not one of the people who say, I'm gonna get you the highest price. We are going to get you the most attention, and we are going to bring the market in, and we're gonna get you the best value. If I start talking about the highest price, they're gonna go, my neighbors was higher. But it's all about what's going on now. And it's all location, condition, and price. You can't change the location. You can change the condition. Does somebody want to? Is somebody able to? And in my mind, location and condition point to the price, along with what's going on in the market at the time and what's sold. So set the expectations of how you will market the home and work with the sellers. And just like the buyer's packet, figure out, what designs you want to use. You can look at command, you can make your own. I would suggest looking at command because there are things there you can use. If a presentation is 14 pages long and you want it to be 4 pages, well, figure out what 4 pages work for you and dump the rest. Don't worry about it. It's like the grocery store. You walk through and you don't take everything. You take what you can use and the rest of it's there when you need it. Go back for it. I forgot a couple things at Costco tomorrow. Guess what? I have to go back before I go to Norfolk. Still there, I hope. So when you think about your presentation, does it seem pretty obvious to you? I'm trying to see how these slides go. Or do you feel like you have questions about what that would include?
I think we were introduced to the Canva designs. I
Yep.
have Canva brand kit and
Yep.
then the command designs, and it's pretty straightforward and like revising it to your own.
Excuse me.
And I think Melissa shared with us too, her
Good.
stuff.
And then you want to present yourself as well. I used to have a lot of suits. I don't anymore. And where I live, I know agents who will wear boat shoes, cutoffs, and a t-shirt to show property, and they do okay. It can be a more casual atmosphere. It's not okay for me, but I can't wear this where I live either because I'm walking through fields. I usually have on boots. I may have on a mini skirt in July. And I may have on black jeans, white shirt, and a jacket tomorrow. And those boots are always in the back of my car. Because I have to adapt to where I am from a practical standpoint. But I want my client to see that I'm a professional. So I'm not trying to mix boardroom with walking 100 acres. That doesn't work real well. But you want to dress professionally. You want to dress in a way that client sees you probably as a step up. So, you know, when I meet people tomorrow, I might stick with this and this, they're gonna be black jeans. But they're gonna be clean, not gonna have holes in them. And I'm gonna stand tall. Your realtor shirt, you know, I've got the I'm boring shirt, I've got the bold shirt, I've got the community with houses. Gary Keller has shown us we can wear t-shirts and blazers and they look cool, and sometimes you get questions. There's nothing wrong with wearing a hat, either because it's sunny or the weather or whatever, but just make everything clean. There are different ways to be a pro today. It's not all one way. You know, the one thing I'd avoid is advertisements, gestures, you know, things that shouldn't. Yeah, they shouldn't. Y'all are grown-ups. Okay. So, there's also. What's on here? It's talking about, I think it's in your guide. It gives you a create a listing presentation and designs. It guides you to get there. Do you see that? It says answers.kw.com and search Ignite reference guide. And you'll get articles. Okay. So I am knowledgeable. So anytime you start a call or going to see somebody, it's suggested that you have an affirmation first. Again, it's about putting on that smile and building yourself up. So let's actually read this together. I am knowledgeable and caring and the best agent for these clients. They will appreciate my experience and preparation and choose me to represent them as they sell their home. My drama coach would tell me to emphasize every verb. I am knowledgeable and caring and the best agent, that's the adjective, anyway. And they will choose me to represent their home. And if you feel like I'm not there yet, just say it 3 times anyway. And pretend you're getting ready to go on the stage and say that.
When I did my buyer's consult, I had to go via Zoom because of the work schedule. It's still crazy. But I felt so good after I finished.
Yay!
She was like, how long have you been doing this? That was good. I feel
And do you know what the best answer to that is?
I feel like I've been doing this forever. That's what I gave her.
That's a good answer. I like that one better than what I was gonna say.
Just
The old standard in my house is you wouldn't believe it if I told you. Yeah. So, I think, you know, some of this we've already talked about. When you arrive at the home, it's important to establish yourself as the knowledgeable professional, walk through. The book suggests walking through by yourself, so you're not tied down to what they're telling you, because you're not going to be telling a buyer or another agent, well, let me explain this, let me explain. You don't want to have to explain everything. It is, and at the end of the day, it's what they see. So you need to make it the best that it can be without rebuilding their home most of the time. But then share your checklist with them. And, you know, you might end up saying, Arnita, I walked through the house, it was great. There are 2 or 3 places that I think need some touch up. And I noticed that, you know, you have I don't think of anything right now. You have your sewing projects, 10 of them at one time. You know, is it possible that we could like make those in neat piles, or do you have a closet where you store those when you're not working on them? How do you normally handle it? You know, you don't want to offend somebody and go, put that stuff away. But find out, get their buy-in on it to the extent that you can. And And then just say, I'll follow up with you, because they're trying to furiously take notes. And I don't really want them to have to do that. I wouldn't tell them not to, but sometimes I might just say, Mel, if you want to take notes, it's fine. I'm gonna send you a follow-up. They'll go, oh, that's great. And then that gives you the opportunity, usually by email, as opposed to text, unless I use text for short things. I use emails for longer things. And say, I so enjoyed meeting with you. I'm excited to be doing this, that, and the other. As a reminder, before our photo shoot Monday at noon, please try to do the following. I'll be there 30 minutes before to walk through with you. Part of that might mean, oh, the photographer's, okay, Tony, I'll move this over here. You take the picture, great, you did it, I'm putting it back now. Yeah, they didn't get, little things, they didn't get it done.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
If someone, how do you tell someone to clean up respectfully without being, pushy, and how do you know? What if their definition of clean isn't your definition?
So I have a tough situation with someone right now with that. Because he kind of feels like, well, it's clean enough for me, so they want my house. Really? I think you need, there are different degrees of what needs to be done. And different degrees of what some people find acceptable. But I think, I would say to somebody, if their house needs a little bit, I might say, we want your house to absolutely sparkle when the photographer is here. Those photographs are to draw people in. I know you're really busy. Who is the housekeeper? Is that you or is that somebody else? If they say, well, I do it, but I'm tired and I'm busy and I really just don't get to it. Would you be okay with me bringing somebody in? And then you're going to have to discuss who pays for it. Would you be okay with me bringing somebody in? It's a service that I sometimes arrange for people, didn't say I paid for it, but I sometimes arrange for people because, again, we want those photos and the open house. We just want things to gleam on that day. So you haven't told them they were dirty, right? The guy I've got right now, he goes, well, what are you talking about? It's fine. I said, well, you really can't see it, but this table that has all your family photos on it is also this thick and dust. I had to tell him at one point, and I said, can you clear it and take care of that? Or is it better if I have my housekeeper come in? I hadn't even noticed that, but I would do that. If somebody's filthy, dirty, messy, they've got stuff everywhere, they're probably not going to get it clean if it's really overboard. I've got a hoarder right now. Cool house. There's so much stuff. That fortunate he has 3 sons who are kind of helping him get on track. But that's where you either have to say, I can tell you're overwhelmed. Is this something new or has this gone on for a long time? If they go, oh, this is the way I live. I just sold 3 other properties and everything is here instead of in storage. Great. Let's talk about how we're going to change that. But if they go, no, then you have to decide if you want the listing. And if you do, then talk to them about, when people come in, we need them to see the house. Let's talk about what some of the options are. Do you have storage? Do you have somebody to clean? Can you pay for storage? Are you able to move the things? When I'm on the selling, and the other thing is when you have buyers, if you're actually bringing them into a house that's like that, you might have to say to them, Joan and Joni, I think I found a house that's really a great option for you. I have to tell you, I previewed it and it is a hemorrhage. I have to ask you to look past everything and just look at the house. Here's the floor plan. But on the seller side, you have to decide, do you want it? And as I said, I work with a lot of estates and people who are moving at a later time in their life. And what I will do is say, there's a lot to do here. And it's a lot just for you to think about moving. This is why you all have the suitcases. Tell you a second. And I will say, do you and your family feel like you have the capacity to get the house lean and clean? Or do you need me to do that? I have resources where I can have someone come in and sort through what needs to be disposed of, what can be donated, what can be sold, what you have tagged before that is staying with you, and get the house clean. What do you want to do? And we talk about how those different things would work. If somebody is moving and they've got the hemorrhage, you know what I mean when I say hemorrhage? It's like it's just everything everywhere. Yeah. You might say to them, there's a lot here. Sometimes you just have to say it. There's a lot here. How much is moving with you? I don't know. Okay, what I need you to do over the next couple of days is don't think about every item. Don't decide what has to happen with every item. Just look at one room. If that's too much, just look at one wall. Just look at one dresser and decide what you want to live with. The rest of it I'll take care of. And you have the resource to do it. And I'm glad to talk to you about that later, about what those resources might be. They're not secrets, it's just probably takes more time here.
Good, I need that right now.
I probably can't tell you who because it's Northern Neck, but I can tell you how to find the people.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's take like a 5-minute break. And come back and we'll go, I'll tell you about your suitcases. I don't mean to make such a big deal out of them. And we'll go to the next section. Okay? Right. So James, yeah, go ahead. You always want to have yard people, housekeepers, handyman or handy woman or whatever we want to say, but handy people. Roofers, HVAC people.
I've been trying to establish my vendor list of quality.
Yes.
Yeah.
People.
Who does a good job at a fair price and who shows up, who actually shows up. So I would also look for, and I would ask in are all of you all signed up for the private Facebook page for this market center? Ask Mal to send you an invitation, just because it's easier than trying to find it. Don't invite people who aren't part of this. I did that in the beginning. Patrice would call me, she goes, why did you invite somebody? This is private. I didn't know anything about Facebook to know one from the other, but it's fine. But what you can do in there is say, who do you recommend for whatever it is? So I have people who, for a fee, will come and empty a house. I had a house earlier this year that the woman hadn't lived there in 2 years. She didn't need anything that was in it. Most of it wasn't worth anything. Excuse me. We needed to get the house emptied and she didn't want money out of pocket because she had a palace and everything in it had value. I found someone who would empty the house. There was enough in it that he and his family had like a thrift shop. And there was enough in it that he considered it a wash. I won't charge you for what I have to dispose of, but I'm not gonna pay you for what I'm gonna sell in my thrift shop. So it was a wash. I told her she had to be happy about it. And I mean, I told her, okay. Other situations, I've got a guy that, he does online auctions, some in person, but also online. He doesn't do them at the property. He comes and he picks up everything. After, somebody has said, I want this, don't touch it, or they've taken their things. He decides this gets disposed of, this gets donated. He takes them to wherever he wants unless somebody says, could you please take it too? He'll honor that if it's geographically. But otherwise, he decides where it's going. This is going into my auction. And sometimes he will give a price and say the clean out price is, because there's so much of it. And then the auction split is this. Other times, if there's very little he has to dispose of, he'll just say, I'm gonna get everything out of the house and this is the auction split. And I hesitate to say what it is because I don't know how different it is here. I just
So
don't know.
you live in the northern net?
I do. I lived in Richmond Span District for 36 years.
Sure.
And we were weekenders on the Northern Neck and said we'd never live there because we'd be bored. And 10 years ago, life changed and we went, okay, well, let's give that a try. And
I like the northern net.
yeah,
I had a listing. in the northern net.
oh, where?
Flat. And then it was, I took it off, he said he didn't want to sell it.
Oh, yeah.
Matter of fact, his last name is Howard, he's no longer living.
Uh-huh.
I was friends with his son, was one, me in my early stages to find, essentially learning. One that did it because of a friend that was out of my region. House set on a slight hill, had a semicircle driveway.
Yeah.
It's a nice house though.
What
I
town?
actually sold it. I actually sold it fairly quickly, the rest didn't think me sell it.
Yeah, yeah.
It was really frustrating because I had this wasn't a good look for me. Is a decision. By the way, that contractor, that job that you walked out on, is it not for me, am I comfortable? Was it in Potomac now?
Yes, it was.
Figured it might. You said that, I said, okay, I had.
My husband and I did a lot of,
North Potomac. I lived in Maryland for like 30 seconds.
my husband and I did a lot of business, first in Georgetown and then around the Beltway.
And you said Colorado, I was like, that's in that, in that area?
My cousin's in Colorado. No, that's DC near DuPont Circle.
Near 2 points.
Yeah, it's like Colorado is where, I don't know if they're still there, but the Obamas had a house there after the White House. And then, one of the Trump daughter had a house there as well. And they're just, they're really,
Is that off of Wisconsin or Connecticut? What's the street name? It's
California is the only one I can think of. And that's not the street my family's on. I can't even think of their street. I don't remember. I know how to get there, but.
Yeah, no worries.
But, yeah, and you know, I mean, even in our previous business, we were very fortunate that the vast majority of our clients were lovely to deal with,
Sure.
paid their bills. You know, you remember the handful of great ones and unfortunately the handful of, I don't want to go there again. But yeah, it was good. But I would have those resources available.
I'm trying to accumulate them.
And, well, it just, you don't have it all at once. Sometimes you get it as the need arises.
Trying to see if I can find it now. Oh,
I won't know. I mean,
yeah, I'm trying to see if I have it there.
it's rare that I know.
No, I don't understand this.
So Stephanie, what specifically did you do in admin?
Oh my gosh, at Virginia State, I worked at Virginia State University.
Oh, okay.
Oh, everything. I was responsible for graduation, registration,
VSU is Petersburg, right?
mhm,
Okay.
orientation, everything, pretty much, enrollment verification. I would.
So you're a
I worked in the
coordinator.
registrar's office. Yeah.
You're a coordinator, which comes in really handy with this.
Mhm. Oh, I have
Okay.
gone to Virginia State. I think I went like a couple weeks ago,
Yeah,
just doing a regular business day. You know, and I just touched base with everyone that I used to work with, and it was amazing. And they actually have homecoming this weekend.
yeah.
The way I'm gonna be out there in that yard promoting my business is gonna be good. Cannot wait. And I have a daycare. I'm a childcare owner.
Oh, my goodness.
So one of my goals, next year is to come up with a seminar, probably early, maybe February, to get them in time for spring.
Mhm.
So I want all of my parents and I want all of them to be home buyers, like homeowners.
Start promoting it now.
Mhm.
Tell them what to expect in the winter.
Okay.
Get ready
Get
for
them
the
ready.
spring.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it. One of my clients, I never met her husband. He was deceased, but, excuse me, she and her husband had Here, her last name is King, Jennifer Thorne. She's lovely, one of the, clients that then you become friends with, or friendly with. Yeah, so have you found the transition in terms of dealing with people? Have you found that pretty smooth?
Yes. Yeah, I can talk to anybody.
Yeah.
And we can be friends forever at the end of the conversation.
Yeah, and that's important. I don't know how much of this comes from my upbringing and how much of it comes from the previous business I was in with my husband. But we would work with clients who were rubbing their last two nickels together, trying to stay in their home, and we put in a simple straight stair lift so they could get to the one bathroom upstairs. And we'd work with the people who were building, a 30,000 square foot home with 2 elevators, 3 dumbwaiters, a couple of kitchens, and names, I could drop names. And it didn't matter, because it's what's your goal? How can I help you accomplish that goal? And I think when we take
Excuse me.
that approach, it works, something that I think I didn't mention, but it says at the beginning of this section is that really we're in a service business. And if we remember that and function from the standpoint of like a servant's heart, then we get it done. It doesn't mean we're gonna be walked on, right? But how can I help you? How do we, so that you take that relationship attitude and then build it out through the process of accomplishing your goals. That works much better than, okay, this is a transaction, so I'm here, give me your money. And it works much better than I am your servant, you don't want to be a servant. Because then that's when you get, walked on.
Yeah.
And none of us need that, so. Your suitcases, did you want a suitcase? No, here, perfect. So I was just trying to find something, it's like, I do things when I think about it. I went by the strawberry stand in May, and I will walk out of there with, 6 pints of strawberries because I want to give one to you, and I like them so much and you too. Like I might, see Brian along the way, and I just, and in advance, like, I don't know, but your clients might not be flying, and they might not be going around the world, but they're doing a darn lot of packing. It is a lot of work. Sometimes people will say, okay, I need to understand why you want to sell your house, because it's a lot of work. And we'll ask them right out front. So remember, when you're talking to people, the buyers are excited, the sellers may or may not be excited, but it's a lot of work. And our job keeps it easier and hopefully more exciting for them. There's always a bump in the road. I tell people that up front, there's going to be a bump, and I'm here to help get through that. But it's a lot of work to pack and to move and to go wherever you're going, whether it's down the street or around the world. So that's keep in mind for them. Now, what's inside here, this is so goofy. There is some trail mix. If you're allergic to nuts, sorry, it was the thought that counts. There is coffee candy because I think it tastes great and you're going to need some caffeine from time to time. And there is chewing gum. I do not go into anybody's house before either having a mint or putting some chewing gum in my mouth. I'm not going to chomp it in front of them, but I will. I'm like, what they used to say about the tobacco people, a little pinch between your gum and chew. I put it over there because the last thing you want to do is have somebody go. You need to talk to people and you need to feel confident. It also sort of refreshes you. You feel like, oh, that mint is. So that's what's in there.
Thank you.
Recommend in my car.
Yeah, I'm an outdoor girl, I'm playing about that.
Yeah, I'm a notary, so everywhere I go, I have those minutes.
Yeah, and some people will carry packets for their clients. They'll have, which I think is a great idea. I had never really thought about it, but But to have in their car some protein bars and maybe some hand wipes, and I hate bottles of water, even though I have them here today. I usually just have my mug because I hate throwing things away. But some water, and, you know, if you're gonna do snacks, maybe have nuts and donuts, or have potato chips or popcorns, or, you know, I can't even think of it. But, you know, you shouldn't have to have a whole grocery in there. But if you're going to do that, have a variety of things. If you're meeting someone who's driving in, I know I'm gonna get a piece of gum. If you're meeting someone who's driving in from a distance, if you're meeting at the office, great. If your plan, does anybody want a piece of gum? I've tried it. Was to go directly and to a house, meet at a coffee shop or something first, or even, you know, a Wawa, because they might need a comfort stop. Right? If they've been on the road and you don't want the first thing to be when they get in the house, it's okay if I meet someplace else. It might be okay, if you just don't want to have to deal with that. Always say thank you and write a note. Handwritten notes. How many of us get real mail that doesn't have a window in it or something that's due? So when we get mail, it's like, oh, who wrote to me? It used to be the thing. And now it's more unusual, which sets you apart. So if you send that note and say, James and Judy, it was so great to meet you. I know we talked about a lot. I'm really looking forward to working with you. I mean, it's just that simple. It's 2 or 3 sentences, and you drop it in the mail. If you receive a referral from someone, say thank you. Write them a note. You can decide if you want to send them something more than a note. That's I think a personal decision, but you don't wait until the deal closed. You can send them something then too, even if it's just a thank you. I shouldn't say just, if it is a thank you. You always want to say thank you in a more formal way in the beginning. There's an agent in Dallas that I sent a referral to last year, and she sent me soup from Harry and David. It was a pack of four packs of soup, you know, different flavors, and it's all the dried stuff, and it tells you how much water to add. And I was so excited because I didn't expect it. And every time we just didn't go through them right away. Every time we pull one out to make soup, I go, oh wow, I wonder how Edwina's doing. I wonder how that client is doing. I heard her, it was Edwina Potter, who you hear her on Pivot from time to time. Yeah. And so she said that. So you don't always have to do something that has a financial cost, because they're also getting a referral fee. But you need to make sure you say thank you, and you can decide beyond that how to do it. I won't tell you how to do it. So any questions about when the seller, before we move into working with buyers and sellers? At some point, you want to do an evaluation, please, for today. You can scan the QR code. I'm sure my name is not in the drop-down list. You'll have to type it in. It's spelled properly on that board over there. And any feedback you have, I enjoy teaching and I want to get better and better. So I would appreciate that. KW Cares. All right, since this is up here, I'll talk about it. KW Cares is an amazing organization. You know, I don't know how many large corporations have a not-for-profit that serves their agents in the community. But if someone is ill, and we've had it happen in this office, if there's a disaster somewhere, a natural disaster, KW Cares sends these huge semis with supplies. After some big hurricanes in Florida a couple of years ago, they basically found a warehouse space and they just set up where somebody could go in and get toilet paper and paper towels and soap and maybe a t-shirt and whatever they needed for the KW community. Someone is ill and they have to back off of work. If they need assistance, they can apply to our office, which is where the golf tournament comes in, because we have funds that are pulled on here before we pull from national. It's not a choice, it's the way the system works. The other thing I will say about that, you can set up so that every one of your transactions automatically deducts an amount, whether it's percentage or whether it's a flat amount, or you can plug it in every time. It's your choice how you give and where you give. And many of us give to KW Cares, and we give to lots of organizations throughout the community that are meaningful to us. But what I will say is that I won't have all the numbers right in my head. That in the last couple of years, donations have been down. If every agent who had a transaction donated $5, there would be a surplus. $5, because it's, I've got the numbers somewhere in my phone. If you're interested, I'll pull it up later. But they're, as great as an organization does and all it does, and as many of us do give, there are too many people who don't give. And it's one of the organizations you don't want to ever need it. But I feel like I want to contribute to it so that if I did, or I know someone who did, that I know that I had helped that come about. Sort of like giving blood and lymph. Right. KW Next Gen is to help educate young people. I think it's 18 through it's 23 or 25. So whether someone is finishing school and thinking about what they want to do next, or they finish school and are trying to figure out what their career is, or how to start a business that they find will be interesting, it's a program to help get their mind in a place that they can plan. And it's something that I want to learn more about. Okay, some of what we're going to talk about in this area, we've talked about before, because it all gets mixed up in my head. Sorry about that. So we're going to move on to Transact, how things actually happen from the time you get an agreement through the sale. And we'll cover part of that today, and then it's going to be covered in your other classes. So at the end of the session, you'll be able to identify key information to build success with buyers and sellers, employ strategies to assist buyers and sellers with their decision-making, and of course, build a strong foundation relationship with the other agent. So, Stephanie, hi, could I show your house this afternoon? Yeah, is there anything in the listing that I need to know, or anything that's not in the listing that I need to know? Oh, there are 3 cats and I need, okay, that's good to know. Oh, you just found out that something's leaking, but you're taking care of it. Cool, thanks for letting me know. I usually text locked and out. Later in the day or the next day, I will say, thank you, it's not the house for my client. They might want more feedback than that. Why not? Thanks very much for the opportunity. They've realized that they're looking for something a little bit bigger. Thanks. When is a good time to call you? I have some questions. You know, if I get that as a listing agent, I'm like, yeah, I want questions. That's fine. I want an opportunity to talk. Always communicate and be pleasant. You never know when they're going to have to come to you. I had a situation where agent blew up at me year before last. It was really his problem. It wasn't mine, but he blew up. It showed me a side of him that I didn't like. It made me change my attitude about whether or not I wanted to work with him, but I didn't show him that. Didn't mean I went out of my way to be nice to him, and it wasn't anybody in this office. But it really changed where I used to go, hey, it's great to see you. I was kind of like, yeah, it's good to see you. I went a different direction.
Right.
He called me about one of my listings a couple months ago. And I was just, yeah, I'll be glad to give you the lockbox number. That's fine. Hope it works out. And I called him about one of his listings the other day. If he had been somebody who's dishonest, I might feel differently about it. But he was just somebody who made some bad decisions and then wanted to blame somebody else. So you just kind of have to put it in its place, move forward, but more often than not, you're trying to build a relationship with somebody. So, service. Right up here. You all are doing your contacts and you know TCPA, right? Right?
Yes.
It's a different slide than the one I have, but I like this one.
I think we also switch presentations.
Well, it was, oh yeah, I haven't gotten the 16. Jeez, thank you. Yeah, we have pretty much covered all that. The Feature new is. Yeah,
This is all 15.
here we go. Yeah.
Oh, this is all 15.
It's still 15?
Is this?
Yeah, we want to get to 16. Oh, wait a minute. We did this, how come it's, let's see the walk through handwritten, okay, wait a second. Maybe I have it backwards. Do you see it if you go forward?
Oh, I think I have to close out of this presentation because there's
Oh, because Mal was just telling me, Go
16
ahead.
right here.
you got 16.
And you can move on to the next.
Mel's fixing it. I was looking, going, this is different than what's on my screen. Thank you, Mel. Do you have it? Or do you need Mel? Yay! Yay!
I'm trying to stay out of the camera.
Oh, you're good, you're good. Hey, this matches. And since we're a great group, we're gonna read what's in a Millionaire Real Estate Agent virtually. Every top producing agent we have ever worked with has a deep and almost inherent sense of service. They have a service heart and place their buyers or sellers' real estate experience above all else. They're always thinking service. When we came back from the break, a couple of you might not have been in the room yet, but we were talking about that. And what we said is, if you focus on the person's goal and how can I help make that happen, then it gets the job done for everyone. You don't want to be the servant, you don't want to be walked on and be run around, but you want to think about how can I help, and then use this part, use your brain and your tools and your training to say, this is what I do next. That makes sense? Okay. And remember, if you haven't read MREA, read it again and again and again, use it as a resource. And when they say every agent, I mean, they went to the most successful agents in the country. And said, what works? Why does it work? So today we're focusing on the time between getting a signed buyer or listing agreement and making an offer. And we've got like 15 minutes to do that. So I might be talking even faster. So we want to have great communication because it instills confidence. Confidence creates peace. When I was going through this, I kept writing in here, peace. I'm not really a flower child or a hippie. I mean, there are elements of that in me, but I grew up and started in business at a time where it was becoming popular to multitask. How much could you do? How much stress could you take? Did you get upset about things? Did you get things done? And I used to pride myself that I could do all that. And now I'm like, phew, I'm so glad I'm over that. Instead, I want to be paced and I want to be calm, because otherwise I'm just stressing myself out unnecessarily. So when you build that relationship and show your credibility, it creates peace and calm for your client. And when they're calm, you can handle things better. There can be times when they're not calm. I've got a buyer right now who's not very calm because the seller didn't do what they were supposed to do. We were supposed to close last Thursday. They're still trying to find their birth certificate so that they can be identified, so that they have the privilege of signing the seller papers. She's very upset. Yeah, it's a mess. But it's a mess that's getting straightened out. And I have to say to my buyer, I know this is upsetting. I acknowledge it. Okay? I know this is upsetting. You were prepared. Unfortunately, they were not. But this comes under the title search. And she was like, can we sue them? And it comes under the title search. They have to have the ability to sign. There's a hiccup there. They're getting it straight. We need to give them a little time to get it done. At the end of the day, it'll be okay. Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. There's always, you can do everything you want. You can't control everyone, and you don't know what could come up that was just unavoidable, but we get through it. There's usually a bump. Yeah. So the key is communication. Yeah. That's it. So there are 3 levels of service. Everything, both on the buyer side and the seller side. This section is gonna go back and forth between buyer and seller. For the most part, it's the same, really. If you don't understand how one applies to the other in the essence of time, just tell me, how would that work on the other side? So you want to show your purpose, your value proposition, and that you're a fiduciary. My purpose is to help you buy or sell this property. My value proposition is how we're gonna get it done. And that I bring the expertise to get it done. And even if you're brand new, you have the expertise because you have Peggy and Patrice and the whole market center. This is the most giving place. You know, John Pace, the number of times he said to me, you need help, call me. You need help, call me. If I can't help you, I'll find the person who can. And that you're their fiduciary, which really puts people at ease when they know what that means. What it means is that Arnita can say to me, I not only want to sell, but I need to sell. Here are the personal reasons why I need to do it. Somebody else, I won't use a name in here because I don't like to jinx, will say to me, I need to sell. I'm in a bad financial situation. They can tell me whatever they need to tell me so that I can help. I can't repeat it to anyone again unless it's still something not legal going on that I have to deal with. And I can help it. And I also tell people in this fiduciary part, I say, you know, we are dealing with what is for most people, I don't say for you, because I could be dealing with someone who's worth $1 bazillion. And they wear a t-shirt and cutoffs and drive a beat up truck and I don't know it, right? But I will say, any question I ask you about finances is so that I know how best to help you. I'm not going to ask you anything that is unnecessary. It's not my business if you have what you have in the bank. You know, when I'm dealing with buyers and I say, have your pre-approval letter ready? I will say to them, either have your lender show what you're qualified for, or if you're a cash buyer, you can do a screenshot, or you can have your financial institution write on there, Mel Henson has the resources to buy 123 Main Street for the attached MLS or something. It is not my business or the seller's business, whether you have just enough to make that happen or whether you have $50 million in the bank. I had to change from 5 million to 50 million because somebody gave me a look and I was like, oh, that's not extreme enough anymore. So I said, 50 million, but it's not my business. It's just not. My business is that the person is qualified so I can help them see the deal through. So the difference in a functionary and a fiduciary, the fiduciary is a person of trust and who puts their clients' needs before their own. We get paid when a deal happens. We don't get paid because of our effort, but we have to put in the effort to make it happen. A functionary is the person we've described a couple times before who says, sign here. Doesn't mean they're not knowledgeable, but it's a different role. It's can be, not always, but can be without licensing. If you work for a developer who has an on-site salesperson, usually they don't have a license. And sometimes, like with, I think Ryan, they don't want you, it's in your employment contract, you can't have a license because they don't want you competing. So you want to know the difference in those things. Okay, dual agency. How many of you are familiar with dual agency or remember it from your course? Anyone want to say what they think it is or what they think of it? Huh?
I wouldn't do it. It's not recommended. Pretty much. You don't want to be able to. It's hard to do your fiduciary when you have two people that you're representing.
Right. So dual agency is legal in Virginia. I'm also studying for my Florida exam, and it is not legal in Florida. I have done dual agency a couple of times. There are times when I have refused to do it. So with dual agency, it's really that you're not representing either one. You're saying, okay, Stephanie, I know I listed the house with you. And so I was fiduciary. but Arnita really wants to buy your house. And she wants me to represent her too. And I think I know you all well enough that I can represent you both. I can advise you and I can advise you. I can't share information, but I know where the deal can come together. So that would be an example of where dual agency would work. However, if I said to you, as I did this last year, you know, Stephanie, I know I have this listing, Arnita came in and, no, I knew Arnita, I was working with her as a buyer. And I think your listing is, I think it's a really good fit. And now that she's seen it, because we already know each other, she wants me to represent her. How do you feel about that? You go, well, you're confident in it, Karen. I'd be okay, so I know at the end of the day, you would look out for me. And Renita says to me, we've been working together 3 months before you had that listing, so I know at the end of the day, you really represent me. And that's when I go, you know what? I want to represent you both, and legally, I can't. Have a buyer's agreement with you that's general, have a listing agreement with you that's specific. You're interested in this specific one, so we have a choice. You can either sign as an unrepresented buyer, which in your case, maybe we don't recommend. It's something, if it's an investor who does it all the time, I'll say, well, that's because it's someone who's buying a house doesn't buy very often, I'd probably say, which I really don't recommend. But I would like to introduce you to one of my colleagues who can completely help you with this. I'll know you're there, but we won't discuss anything, so you can be completely open. And together we'll make the deal come together. So that's how I handle it. There are times that from the beginning, when we go through the listing agreement, where someone will say, I do not want you doing this. And we just write it in, it will not be dual representation. But you have to, it's legal in Virginia, so you have to know what you're comfortable with, what you're confident with. And if you have any hesitation, then you find another positive way to do it. Yes, sir.
Technically, how does that work? Does the other agent have to come from the broker, or do you get to identify that agent? Once you identify that agent, you that's for referral.
Yes, to all of it. So in the beginning, I might have said, Arnita, you're coming out to the northern neck from Richmond, you have an agent there that you like to work with, and Arnita would say, oh yeah, Melissa and I are old pals, and whenever it's a great, have Melissa call me, or I'll call Melissa. And then I started thinking, why would I, unless she says to me, hey, I came out to your open house and I like you and I'd like you to do this, but I'm used to working with so-and-so as well. Why would I introduce that? I've spent 3 months with her, showing her properties, and now I've got a fifth that's my listing. Why would I not refer that? So in that case, I will say, I have a colleague who really knows the market here that I'd like to introduce you to. Are you open to that? And she's either going to say, yeah, that's great, which is most of the time, or she'll go, no, I would have worked with you, but if it's not you, there is somebody I've worked with before. I want to know. If she says, yes, that's fine, then what I'm going to do is call my colleague who knows the market and say, hey, I've got a listing, I've identified a prospective buyer, super interested. Dual representation is not going to work. I'd like to send you this referral. I don't ask, are you okay with referral? I'd like to send you the referral. Again, it's assumptive, right? So one time we're assuming it's a good thing. And you all know what assume means, right? Everybody knows? Okay, good. So then I will send that person the referral, and hopefully that comes together.
At what point does the broker get involved at all? If at all.
When they sign the referral form. So I would put together the referral form and send it to the receiving agent. And they sign it and they send it to their broker to sign.
So that broker is with KW down there. Is what you're saying, or is it-
Yeah, well, it's Rick Cockrell, but still Rick Cockrell.
So that becomes designated agency. Since both are represented by the, okay. It's not an agency class, I
Well-
apologize, I just want-
yeah, so. I'm not sure.
Don't worry about
I
it. We can
think
move
you
on.
could look at it that way, but I have identified someone, but the broker is approving it. So I don't really worry too much at the end of the day.
Okay.
Whereas if, when I first started,
Yes,
I wanted to refer someone in Northern Virginia, and I
Yes.
didn't know anybody.
yes.
And I actually contacted, Kyle. It's kind of funny. And I said, I need to find a good listing agent in such and such a community. And he said to me, I think you should call Jesse Devamithran. Now, you all may not know Jesse, but does that sound like a common last name? And I said, Kyle, she said Jesse. Anyway, she was a client of mine in the elevator business.
Hmm.
And so I called and I said, you remember those handful of people? She was one. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe this. And I called her and of course she was surprised and we chit chatted and I said, so this is a crazy thing. I've recently been licensed and I need somebody to list this property up here for a very dear friend of mine. Are you interested? And she goes, I'm in Ireland right now, but give me their contact information. She was on vacation. She, got it all done. So I would say it was a referral, but that was definitely designated because I had no idea.
Okay,
Now today, I don't do it that way.
okay.
I either vet people myself, if it's an area that I don't know. Or I go through the Inspire Collective and see who's good, if it's an area I don't know, and then I talk to that person. If I haven't heard them, if I haven't met them at an event, heard them talk on Pivot or Inspire, or have high recommendations from somebody else, I'm gonna call and I'm gonna say, Stephanie, your name came up in my search for an agent. Do you have time to talk about whatever it is? And I'm probably gonna call Brian and I'm gonna call Arnita. I'm gonna treat it like any other business and call 3 people at least. And I'm gonna find out who was responsive, who's a good communicator, who sounded like they knew the area. I may or may not go with the person who has the highest volume because I don't know if I want them handed off to a team. But how is that gonna happen?
Thank you.
You're welcome. And, yeah, okay, so dual agency, we did that, right? You're gonna communicate and you're gonna educate your clients. You know, educate them to the point of them. I'm sorry. It's all being recorded. It's deceiving. You don't need them to learn everything. That's what you're there for. You want them to understand what's going on. I'm so sorry. Review the entire process. So what I would do is sit down and say, okay, we've been through the listing process, or we have the buyer agreement. Here's what to expect next. Some people go over every document. I typically don't. I will say, when you get an offer, the key things we're gonna look at are. And I go through that, and then when we get the offer, remember we talked about this, and I go through again. It might be partly the reason I'm doing that, is I'm typically dealing. My buyers are multiple homeowners and retirees. My sellers are advanced retirees or deceased. So you have to put it to your clientele, right? Okay. And educate them about the realities of the market. It's moving quickly or it's moving slowly. It's moving quickly, we have to be prepared. It's moving slowly, you have to have patience. Establish times that are good to talk for them as well as for you. But let them know once we're under contract, there are timelines that involve more than us And that's a point where we have to do what we have to do when we have to do it. You're gonna have to be available. Now, if somebody's traveling and you know that in advance, great. Are you gonna have internet access? You don't have internet access, do they have a fax machine? I have to query everything. Okay, when are you gonna be back? If they're gonna be at Machu Picchu for 2 weeks, you might have to say to people, offers will be reviewed 3 weeks from now. You just have to make those decisions. And you're gonna repeat and you're gonna repeat. People absorb kind of in layers, we all do. You get the overview and then you do a little bit more and then a little bit more. So set time expectations. That's the basic category of what we just talked about. Again, put your phone on DND would be my suggestion, except when negotiating. Or even keep it on them, but tell them you'll call them at 7 o'clock. And so that your phone's not blowing up in between. Prepare. These are my notes. Prepare, be flexible for the busy time. And then let them know there's a quiet time and a closed time. So what do I mean by that? You're going to prep the buyer or the seller for what's to come. You're going to have flexibility in time in terms of meeting with them to get things going. Once they're under contract, it's initially a busy time. There are inspections. There is a due diligence period. There are deadlines. Once you get through the buyer and seller inspections and you're waiting on the lender to do the appraisal and you're waiting on the title company to do their part, it's what I call a quiet time. So let them know, because you might be talking to them a couple times a day for a while, and then all of a sudden you don't want them to say, I haven't heard from you, you know? And you might just check in with them every couple of days or check in with the title company and say, is everything look like it's in order? Check in with the lender. Is everything in order? And just send them a note or give them a call. Hey, Brian, I haven't talked to you in a couple of days. How are things going? Great. Son's baseball game, super. I just wanted to let you know everything's on schedule. And then you get to close. And that's celebration, right? Excuse me. You also want to, you know, as you're guiding people through, you can't assume that they know what to expect. You have to tell them what's going on. So if you think about it, like being a parent with a young one, hey, there's a step ahead of us, pick your foot up. Or if you're a docent, okay, we're gonna walk this way and we're gonna turn right at the end. And you let people know a little bit what to expect. Set expectations for communication. One of the questions this last listing client that moved so quickly had for me was, how often do you communicate? And I said, I communicate according to your needs, no less than once a week. And then that opened up the conversation to how we wanted to communicate. I let people know if, you know, I'm at dinner with my family every night. If we absolutely need to talk, I can call you at 8 o'clock. But I give myself a chunk of time, and people respect that. I will let people know, a select number of people know when I'm going on vacation in a couple of weeks. I haven't had a real vacation in a couple of years. You know, it's a day here or there doing something, and I'm absolutely going to disconnect. And some of my clients will know. Some of them who are not under an agreement yet may not know. And I will change what's on my phone to say something like, you know, I'm away for a couple of days. Please contact so-and-so. Or I have to decide if I'm just going to forward those calls to so-and-so. I'm kind of working through it. But even now, when I'm out of town, I don't always tell my clients I'm out of town, because if I'm dealing with them by phone, text, or email, most of the time, they don't know where I am anyway. And it can freak people out. So I leave it alone. I was in Florida for a month, hottest part of the year. And somebody said, no, I really want to meet with you on this. I said, but my schedule, I can't do it for like 8 days. And I said, you know what, that works out perfectly, because I could meet you in 10 days. And you know the difference. So updating your client about the state of the market it is like the weather. If we say, oh, the United States today is 72 degrees, well, that's an average, was 56 here when I drove over this morning. And I'm sure it was colder than that with my friend in Abbotsford, Canada, and my brother's down in Miami. What's the market here is the only thing that matters. Right? Because that's what we're dealing with. So, yeah, we already talked about that early on. You know, things that can change in the market. It's, of course, interest rate, scarcity, employment, but it also can be political climate, which then affects people's confidence. And it can be natural disasters, which, oh, there's all this cleanup going on, or the resources were pulled over here. So you just have to know what's going on. People will ask me about politics and interest rates. They try and put them together in a conversation. I don't go there. I'd say, this is what we have now. It's historically very good. Let's talk about your goals. Well, should I wait for this? Historically, when people wait, this is what happens. Well, what do you think will happen if so-and-so gets elected? I don't know. Historically, data tells us, and you come back to that. So, right? You always want, and you want to tell people from the beginning, I want to earn a good referral from you. My business is built on my reputation. I want to do a great job for you. I hope that we have a great relationship moving through, and I hope that I will do such a good job that you will feel confident referring me to family and friends. Feeling confident to refer somebody is different than, I hope you give me an A because I'll get more business. Right? So that's part of the expectations. Steps to gaining referrals. Yeah. Provide the value. Ask for help. Who do you know that I can help? I loved working with you. If you don't want to ask for it, Brian, you were such a pleasure to work with. You know, if you have family or friends that need assistance with real estate, please feel free to call me. I hope you'll have the confidence to call me. That's a little different than who else do you know? Some people are fine with who else do you know. Other people find it challenging. So you find a way that suits you.
Hey, could you repeat that again?
What
What
I
you just said? Regarding the referral? As opposed to who you know?
Oh, James, I've really enjoyed working with you. If you have family or friends that need real estate help, I hope you'll have confidence to refer me. Yeah. Mel and I know from listening to Pivot and Inspire that one of the focuses right now is find what works for you, what you enjoy doing, and double down on it to do it. There are certain things we need to do, which is lead gen, but do we all have to do it the same way? I'm not so sure. Find the way that works for you. Don't recreate the wheel. It's a waste of time. But if you're somebody who likes dialing, do it. If you're somebody who likes open houses, do it. If you're somebody who, you know, I was in Ulta recently and had the nicest woman help me. And she started talking about what she did outside of when she's at Ulta. And I said, well, you know, you are just a pleasure. And I'll tell you what, if I can ever help you, and I got her my real estate card. You know, and I met her yesterday for something else. She goes, and you're in real estate, right? I said, yeah, let me give you my card again. So, you know, will something come of it? I don't know. And I wasn't spouting real estate, but she was talking about what she does. I told her what I did. Yeah, so let people know it's a referral based business and that you want reviews and you need reviews. And most people will say, I would love to give you one of my toughest listing clients. I say tough because she was pretty cut and dry about things, but she had 2 homes. She decided she wanted to live in this other state. She had her house on the market. I was real curious about the house and where it was. And I noticed it was expired and it had been expired for a little while. And so I wrote her a note, mailed it, And I said, hey, I'm, really curious about your house. Looks like it's a beautiful neighborhood. I may have some people that would be interested, but I noticed that it's expired. Could you tell me what your expectations are? Quite frankly, I think I was just too shy then to say, could I talk to you about this? And she picked up the phone and called me. And I listed the house and still one of my favorite houses, but we got it done. And she wrote me a fabulous referral and talked about how important it was to her to have someone locally based who understood the market and that she felt confident looking after her house when she was 1,000 miles away. And so that goes a long way. When you're asking people for reviews, it's okay to tell them what to say. If you included in your value pack, or at the end, thank you so much, I'll be sending you a request for a review. Here are some of the things that other people have said, and I can't wait to see what was of value to you. In that process, you've given them suggestions of what to say. So this is another way to ask them, if your purchasing or selling experience exceeded your expectation, would you be so kind as to give me a review? I mean, I have your permission to use it. But for instance, they might focus on, Brian was amazing and sold my house so quickly. James was really helpful when it came to talking about HOA associations. I wasn't familiar with them, but his depth of knowledge really helped me make some decisions. Stephanie went above and beyond in providing services and resources for me. So they might think of that, but if you have a couple of referrals on a sheet or that says, I would love your referral. If you could think about the ways that I helped you, was it HOA, was it this, what, and just give them, personally, I wouldn't say, Arnita, could you please write a review and remind people how I did this particular thing, great. I mean, I just, now, if we were sitting down talking and Arnita said, you just blew that out of the park. I can't believe how you did whatever it was. I'm going to say, would you write a review about that? Do it in that moment because it fits and everything is lighthearted at that point. Yeah, so that's really helpful. I know that the agent that helped us buy our house in Florida, she's the reason I'm at KW. And she answered the call immediately. And I said, wow, that was fast. And she said, it's my job to show you that I'm responsive. It was the first thing she said to me. And what did I do when I gave her a review? Talk about how responsive she was. And then,
How do I combat that? If someone is calling you and you yourself said for you keep your phone on.
on D&D.
Yeah,
Well, I didn't in the beginning, and that's back when she and I were buying leads. And so there was no way you had to keep your phone available because it was the first person to answer the lead.
okay.
And so I didn't do that. But if I walk out of here and I sit in the car and I look at my messages before I leave. And if it's a number that I don't recognize, usually I return the call. Sometimes I look if they left a message that was important. If they didn't, then it's not. It might have been spam. But if I see something that, Mal has sent, hey, somebody's looking for an agent in the Northern Neck, I'm going to look at the time they called. Oh, they called at 11:05 and now it's 12:10. And I'm going to call and say, John, hi, it's Ann Hergenreiter of Keller Williams returning your call. Looks like you called me about an hour ago. I'm so glad to talk with you. How may I help? I don't need to apologize for something. Now, if it's been a long time, I might say, I just picked up your message. I've been in a class today. And they'll usually want to know what type of class it is. And I'll either say, hey, it was learning about, financial management, or it was learning about HOAs, or why I actually had the privilege to teach the class. And of course, we give all of our agents, how may I help you today? I grew up the shy child apologizing for everything in life. You spilled coffee on yourself. I'm so sorry. You know, I accidentally turned around and hit your, I'm so sorry. I would cry. My grandmother looked at me one day and goes, stop apologizing. You know, life happens and you're only making yourself look small. So I apologize when I have wronged somebody or when I have made an error, but I don't dwell on it and I don't apologize for doing my job and calling somebody back when I could. It's like when I get voicemail and someone says, I'm sorry, I can't take your call, or somebody calls me back from a company and says, I'm so sorry. Why? You were doing your job. Maybe that's just me, but you were doing your job. So I don't know how we,
Thank you.
yeah, I'm not sure how I got there. Sorry. Sorry. Yeah, see, I said it. So other than my sorry, any insights right now? This is the same sort of wheel that we had on the seller side. You know, the biggest thing is people want you on the buyer side to help them find the right home and to negotiate the terms of the sale, both the price and the terms. Sometimes the terms are more important. Sometimes the terms are I have to get in the house quickly or I can't move for 40 days. Just like you did on the seller side, why do you want to move? What does that mean to you? On the buyer side, what are you looking for? What does that mean to you? I need a bigger yard for my children. I need a smaller yard. I don't want to keep up with the yard, the work, but I need a sunny patio because I love to garden. So you want to understand that. A family member dies, a new job, loss of something. You want to acknowledge those things and then move through them. So, you know, someone has died. I'm so sorry for your loss. What can I do? Let's talk about how we can help you move forward. You know, I've got a client right now that when I talked about what stays with the house and what goes, there's a bench overlooking the water view that has her husband's name on it and his dates of birth and death. And she said, most of the furniture can stay except for that. And I said, oh, that looks like a nice bench. And she said, go look at the other side. And I went, I understand. So, you know, I put that in the listing. Bench overlooking such and such does not convey.
Yeah.
So, oh, this is important. Buyers' lives change and the world changes. That's a little bit of what we're talking about. But for instance, if you have a client that says, oh, gosh, I love the idea of a historic house. I want to be in Jackson Board, Churchill, the fan, don't show me anything else. And then you show it to them and they go, it needs a lot of work. It needs a lot of work. Those are plaster walls. When was the lighting updated? You know, they may love the idea of something historic, but when it comes down to the work, they may say, can we look in Wyndham? Could we, I don't even know the new neighborhoods anymore. Could we look at, you know, is Ryan Holmes building? And so if you see a pattern quickly on where people were excited to see the whatever it was, and then they're like, nip it in the bud and say, okay, this seemed to fit your criteria. But now that we're here, it seems different. Help me understand what's going on. I didn't realize how much work it was going to be. Okay, let's revisit your goal. No, maybe not your goals. Let's revisit your needs. Let's revisit. And you know, likewise, I think we mentioned before, somebody may say, it's time for me to downsize. And they keep looking at the same size. That house is too small. Maybe they just needed to downsize the responsibility of the yard. Maybe it's a time of year where, time of life where they still want a big house, but they want a 55+ community because they love their children, but they don't want to hear everybody else's children running up and down the street. Or they just don't want to take care of the yard. They want somebody else to take care of it. So just communicate and often, how is this going? Are you liking what we're doing? Are we on track? Let's see what else. Remind people, this is the tough conversation part. Do we have this here? No. Remind people as they are on the buyer side. that Once they are approved for a loan, don't start buying stuff. Don't change jobs. Don't do different stuff with money unless they talk to the lender. And the best example I can give you, it didn't happen to me, but another agent I know had a nice property under contract, and within days before they went to settlement, and the buyers had plenty of money, they were well qualified and they had lots of extra cash. They said, with this new waterfront property, we want the boat and the truck and trailer that'll pull it. They did. They did. And so what happens? Their credit report is pulled within 24 hours before they go to settlement, and they may have still qualified. But because they did all that and it changed the metrics, their loan was pulled. Didn't go to settlement, and I can't remember if they got it straight and bought it, or if it went, if it went back on the market and went to somebody else, because it wasn't my client. But that was my example that I wrote down. So, yeah, don't, and you just have to be straight with people about those things. Stephanie, I know you're excited. And I know you're thinking all the things you're gonna do with this new property. We're just gonna focus on getting the property. Don't buy anything else unless you talk to your lender. Just let it wait.
Mhm.
So the home tour toolkit, we kind of talked about this earlier. Here's some ideas of what you can have. I think the tape measure is great, especially if the listing doesn't have floor plans. Speaking of listings, the photographer that I most often use, he's not inexpensive, but he does the photos in and out. He does the floor plan. That's a separate purchase, but I always do it. Does the floor plan. With the floor plan, you get the 360 of the room. I decide on the drone based on where the property is. If it's a wooded parcel, it just looks like a bunch of broccoli. It's useless. If it's on the water and I want people to see where the waterway goes, or it's in it's in a neighborhood that in Kilmarnock, and it's a 2-block walk into the town, I want them to see how close that is to everything. But if it's, if you feel like your client, your listing is something that people would know, or that the drone doesn't serve a purpose other than to say, oh, I got a drone, don't spend the money for it. Flashlight, that's good if you're looking in a dark space. Don't show properties after dark though, which means it's going to change in a couple weeks here. Masks, if we had another situation with masks, a lot of people say it's a personal decision. That's where I will tell you, I think it's a community decision, because you don't have the right to infect somebody else. But when somebody else chooses not to wear the mask, don't let it intimidate you. Do what you know is right. Safety first, we talked about that. Oh, and tell people not to talk in the, your buyers. Just tell them in it, well, and tell them in advance, if you love something, kind of keep it till we're out. They don't have to be completely poker about it, but kind of keep it till we're outside. And if you hate something, do the same thing, because the seller can use it against them either way. Oh, they loved it. They'll pay $10,000 more. Oh, they hated it. Why do I want to deal with them? So it's our job to sell homes, not to show them. Make sure that people are qualified. Don't take your time with people who are qualified. Well, I thought I'd look at some houses and then I'd do that. You get qualified first, so we know you can look at them, so that when you see something you love, we are ready, willing, able to put in the offer. Otherwise, what I do, James, this is what I did with somebody. I was struggling with how to say this to the person, because basically they wanted me to be their tour guide and entertainment person, take them around. And I didn't want to do that. And I said, here's the challenge. If you're not pre-approved, we don't know which houses to show you. And you're going to see something you love and you're not going to be ready to put in the offer. And then you're going to be upset that you didn't get it. So let's get you pre-approved. I want you to talk to Todd Call. with your permission, I'll introduce you by text. And then Todd called, let you know and let me know how it's best to use our time. It might be, in that person's case who was so resistant, the best way to use their time is to go do their homework so that they can get qualified, because right now they're not ready. So they're just, but, you know, use your, respect yourself and them too. Guidelines to facilitate decision-making. Go back to the motivation, needs and wants, advise and consult, lay their fears, solve challenges, and calculate the cost of waiting. Well, I'll do that later. Will you still be in a situation to do that? Will this house be gone? What is it? Okay, I want to get you all out of here on time. Photos versus reality. I mean, you've got to go into the property, whether you see it or whether the client is with you. Sometimes people will say, well, you know, it looks great. Maybe we should just make an offer. Well, the photos look great. What's the reality? What did they not show in photos? Maybe it's perfect. But I like, when I work with buyers, when we go to see a house, I always like to say, so Brian, I'm curious, how did the photos compare to reality? And they'll either tell me, you know, oh, the photographer made this place look great, or they say, I love it even more. But it's good to know, and it tells you where they are as well. Let's see what else. So much of this I've covered, but in a different order. And I hate to be looking down and flipping, but I'm just concerned about time. Let's do it this way instead. So yes, important. Remind your client about fair housing laws. I had someone ask me once, what type of people live in this community? And I said, obviously people who keep their properties tidy. They said, oh, you know what I'm asking. I said, no, I really don't. And they never quite got there, because when it came down to it, they didn't want to say words to me because they could tell that I wasn't going to participate. Right. But you want to be sure that you stay in your lane ethically and legally, and that your client does too, whether they're a buyer or a seller. If they tell you something flat out that makes you uncomfortable, maybe it's not a good fit. You know, I had someone ask me recently, it was like, you know, can I accept this type of person or that type of person? I said, you can accept an offer from someone who is qualified. And that's where it starts and that's where it ends. I don't tell you if they're black, white, purple, male, female, gay, not gay, short, tall, fat, skinny, wear glasses, don't wear glasses, red hair. I don't always, if I'm on the listing side, I don't always know. I haven't met them. But even, and I said, and I'm not telling them about you either. You know, so it's all about, is the person qualified? Yeah. It comes back to the Y or C2 teeth. Win-win. Integrity. As somebody told my husband years ago, he was one of the top producers in his industry. He said, Leo, you lose business because of your integrity. And you know what my husband did? He said, thank you. Customers always come first. Commitment, communication, creativity. You can have lots of creativity, but you got to get to the results. Teamwork. I did not know for the longest time that the word team spells together everyone achieves more. I would just, somehow I was out to lunch on that. Trust starts with honesty, equity, opportunities for all. I'm such a strong believer there in every part of life. You know, how may I help you? What's going on? How do we get there? And without any prejudgment, success results through people. Yeah, we get paid through helping other people. That's what it comes down to. So, I am glad to stay if you all have questions or want to talk about things. As I flip the pages, I may not have flipped every page, but I can tell you, I think we got through most everything. And, please, I don't put my contact information up there just because we're supposed to. I'm always happy to hear from people. I've told you how my phone works, so if I don't answer immediately, understand. If it's something where you really need help right away, if you say, I need now, obviously during this time, I haven't looked at my phone in 3 hours. But if I have it there and see it pop up, I will respond. And if you need help now and I can't answer you, call Peggy, call Patrice, go into the Facebook group and say, who can help me? Don't be shy about it. And I hope wherever that review was, did you all take it or do I need it? Need to find it again?
It's
I get it.
KW, KWU eval.
There you go. There you go. Oh, it's my pleasure. My pleasure, and
And
I'd love to hear how everyone's doing. Yes, sir.
Candy, this business and contract, what kind of, are you talking general contract?
No, we were specialty contractors. We provided, there were sort of 2 sections to our business. We provided elevators for private homes.